Welcome to Blessed and Boys, a podcast that's planting its flag at midfield. We're one Saints fan and one Cowboys fan, one fan of Who Dat and one fan of Dat Win. We're here to give weekly takes, game recaps, bad betting picks, game previews, and a few Seinfeld references.
This week's patron saint / cowboy is former Nebraska linebacker Scott Shanley. Shanley began his career as a 7th-round pick of the then St. Louis Rams in 2003. He then moved to the Cowboys for 2 seasons, 04 and 05, and then moved to the Saints in 2006 and played there until the end of his career in 2012, and obviously won Super Bowl 44 with the Saints.
That's a pretty good career for a 7th-round pick.
I would say so. Yeah. And I hear he shakes hands, unlike
certain Nebraska alum.
Yeah. So I'm Paul, the Saints fan.
I'm Brandon, the Cowboys fan.
Izzy, tell him what time it is.
It's go time.
Yeah, that's it. It's go time. Let's see you lift that.
Mr. Mandelbaum, please.
It's go time.
This one's for you, Pop. It's go time.
It's go time.
You've been married 3 times.
That's it! It's go time!
It's go time.
All right. A few housekeeping items before we get into the crux of the episode here. If you'd like to contact the show, you can do so via email, blessedemboys@gmail.com. That's BLESSDEMBOYZ@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter. We're at bless_dem_boys, capital B, capital D, capital B. You can follow myself. I'm at Paul Elliott _316. That's PAULELLIOTT _316. You can follow Brandon at Ball from Grace. You're listening to us either on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Thank you for listening, first of all. But please like, share, subscribe, leave a rating, review. That helps us get our name out there. I appreciate all the feedback. Tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell random strangers on the street.
Tell the bots on Twitter. I see we've lost a few bots over the past couple of weeks. They've abandoned us, Paul.
That's a shame. They must have found another podcast.
Maybe we had a take that was just too hot for them.
Yeah, you know what? It was gosh, I wish I could. You know, it was my Titans rant last week. That's what it was.
That's it.
They're like, this idiot thinks the Titans can make the playoffs. And
the bots are not buying your Titans stock.
Yeah. The bots are all Texans fans, I guess.
Apparently.
All right, so before we get into more football talk, we here at Bless Them Boys do pride ourselves on being able to talk about other things.
But enough about fish. I can discuss other things, you know.
All right, Brandon, you want to kick us off here? What'd you get up to this week, non-football related?
I think we can start with Thanksgiving. I don't know about you. We had so our Thanksgiving, we basically cooked most of the food. I handled the turkey, and then my wife does most of the sides, but I'll pitch in where I can. So for the most part, everything went smoothly, but we got the turkey in the oven, and so I do the kind of like the spatchcock cooking where you cut it up first, and we'll season it, let it sit in the fridge for a little bit, and then put it in, take the white meat out first, and then the dark meat cooks a little longer. So gone in, the timer's gone off for the white meat to come out. I reach in to pull out the tray, and half of the tray comes out. The other half is still in the oven, so I have to grab a oven mitt and fish that out. Fortunately, we didn't lose any turkey in the process, so the turkey was unharmed. We did have to move the dark meat to a different oven to finish cooking, but it still turned out fine. Everything was good. So we lost the pan in the process. We'll have to give him a burial at sea. But other than that, everything turned out pretty well. How was your Thanksgiving, Paul?
Yeah, so I do the turkey, but I use a Big Easy air fryer. You can get that at your local Academy Sports and Outdoors if you so choose. And yeah, it's pretty simple. You just put it in there. Put the bird. We had about a 24-pound bird, I think. Put that in there for about 4.5 hours.
That's a pretty. That's a pretty big air fryer you got there. Then.
Yeah, yeah. It's and it's it's a stand up one. You just hook it up to your propane tank, and
Mm.
don't have to worry about oil and all that good stuff.
Yeah, that's. I think I've always wanted to try the fried turkey, but I'm afraid that's
Yeah.
where I'm. That's where I'm kind of.
So
I don't want to
yeah,
blow up the house.
so my dad, he didn't blow up the house, but like when I was growing up, he would fry turkeys using the good old fashioned oil, uh, oil method, and he used to. My dad worked in the oil field, and he would have customers that he would fry turkeys for every
Mm-hmm.
year. And one year, um, he he gets done frying all his customers' turkeys, and he tells my mom, "Yeah, I miscounted, so we don't have a turkey this year." So my mom had to go to Winn Dixie. This will tell you how long ago this was. Had to go to Winn Dixie and get she got a chicken stuffed with rice dressing or something. And that was our turkey dinner that year.
Oh yeah,
So.
we love to do the like A Bears. I think we may have
Yeah,
talked about this on the show last week, but I think I mentioned the
I
A
think we
Bears.
I think we talked about it off mic. Like, yeah,
Yeah, so we do
yeah,
a lot of times for special occasions for New Year's or something. We'll get a stuffed chicken or a stuffed duck from A Bears.
yeah,
So everything
yeah.
everything
And
turned out good.
yeah, and then we get our ham and our sides from Honey Baked Hams.
Uh huh.
So definitely would recommend that. They come frozen, and you just pop them in the oven and get them.
Let it go.
Just get them, yeah. Just get them prepared, and yeah, we had a pecan pie, and
Oh,
all was
nice,
good. Watched some football. We'll talk about that a little bit more later, but yeah, everything was pretty good.
nice. So other than that, I watched a lot of the rest of the some college basketball. I watched the Into the Maui Invitational. Auburn ended up beating Memphis in the championship game. I think they're one of the better teams. And then I watched Auburn again actually last night play against Duke, um, and Duke beat them in North Carolina. When what was a really good game, Auburn got out to a really fast start, but Duke was able to kind of get their composure and then sort of settle things down on the defensive end, make some shots. They had one guy who his name escapes me right now, but he was just all over the offensive board, so he was fun to watch. Cooper Flagg, the number one prospect this year as well. So it was, and then you've got Janai Broome for Auburn, who's like the leader for player of the year in basketball right now. So watch that, and then watched another episode of The Law According to Lydia Poet because I'm big on the subtitle shows at the moment.
Oh, I meant to tell you. Speaking of Shogun, uh,
Yes,
I saw Alan Sepinwall. I don't know if you know who that is, but
I recognize the name.
he's a renowned TV critic, and he works for Rolling Stone.
Mm-hmm.
And he released his top 10 list of TV shows for 2024, and Shogun was number 2.
What was number one?
Um, it's an HBO show. I think it's called Somebody Somewhere.
I don't think I've heard that.
I've seen an advertisement for it, and I may have missed. I'll look it up here real quick, but it's one of those. It's like a. I want to say it's like a not a Curb Your Enthusiasm type show, but like a
Like a dark comedy kind of thing.
yeah. Here we go. Here, let's see here. Yeah, Somebody Somewhere is what it's called. Also on the list was Ripley from Netflix. I don't know if you caught that this year.
Have not.
The only show on the list that I watched was number 10, which is True Detective Night Country.
Oh, I haven't
Which
watched it.
came out.
We watched the first season, and then I never ever went back to watch the follow-up seasons.
Yeah. So I've seen the first season, the third season, and then this season. True Detective Night Country is technically the fourth season. I never went back. I started the second season, and it just didn't.
Everyone says that's the worst one by a lot.
Yeah, it didn't. I need to give it another try. It's a little jarring because like Vince Vaughn's in it and he plays a gangster. It's like really kind of, and Colin Farrell's in it. Like there's good. Rachel McAdams is in it. Tyler Kitsch, I think is how you pronounce his name.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's good performers in it. It's just I just couldn't get into it. I mean, and the other thing too is like it's hard to follow season one. I mean, season one was like one of the best seasons of television ever. So I mean, it's season 3 was pretty good because there was like there was enough time had passed where you kind of, and it had season 3 had Marshall Ali.
Yeah, Marshall la 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 la.
Yeah. And then this Night Country has stars Jodie Foster.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, so they're anthology. It's an anthology, so like they're connected, but not really. Like,
yeah, it's not directly related to every.
Yeah, you can watch each season without having. There is in season 3. Excuse me. There is a reference to what happened in season 1, but it's like it's kind of like I don't want to say a throwaway reference, but it's not something that
like a little Easter egg more than
it's more
functional.
It's more of that. So
what did you watch? That's about it for me. What did you get up to?
So for me, so I watched a film called Running Scared. It's from 1986. Stars Billy Crystal and Gregory Hines.
Okay.
It has a Seinfeld connection, actually. They play two.
Other than Billy. Wait. Billy Crystal. No. I'm thinking of Rob Schneider for some reason. I don't know.
No. So Billy Crystal and Gregory Hines play two cops in Chicago who are they are trying to bust this drug dealer who's played by Jimmy Smits, a very young Jimmy Smits, I might add. And something happens and they end up going to Florida for a little bit. They're on like a forced vacation and they end up buying a bar, but then they have to go back to Chicago because they thought they busted Jimmy Smits, but he got out of jail, so like it's that kind of show. But the Seinfeld connection is there's these two younger cops that are kind of like trying to take over Billy Crystal and Gregory Hines' territory, I guess. One of the cops is played by the guy who played Rusty, the homeless guy, who steals George's toupee and who steals.
We should have got his bag of cans or his other bag of cans.
That one. Yep. Yeah. So he's in Running Scared, and the part of the reason I watched Running Scared is it was featured on a podcast by The Ringer called The Rewatchables that they do, and in that episode when they reviewed this movie, they mentioned there was a documentary that came out this past Friday that The Ringer produced called I don't remember the exact title, but it's basically about Yacht Rock. Are you familiar with Yacht Rock?
Yeah, I am. Before let me stop you before 1 second because John Grease, we talked about him as Rusty, but most people will know him for another role that he played.
Of course,
remember
Uncle Rico.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
I was trying to remember it because I was like, I know Rusty was somebody else, but who was it?
Only I would remember him as Rusty from Seinfeld and not Uncle Rico from Napoleon Dynamite.
So you mentioned Yacht Rock, and I will say this: I have my cousin's wife actually was a singer and in a Yacht Rock band. They did like covers of like just different rock songs and stuff. So she would sing.
Yeah.
So,
but yeah, this documentary is I really recommend it. It's very good. It's on Max. It features like Michael McDonald plays a big part of it. Christopher Cross, if you remember who Christopher Cross is. There's some good stories in there about.
Oh man, Michael McDonald. That's a name.
Yeah. So, but they talk about where the term yacht rock came from, which, funny enough, that term came from a web series that was released in the early 2000s. Where, like, these comedians were listening to this music and they just
Mm-hmm.
defined it as yacht rock,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like posthumously almost, and like so this music that was going back 20 years was now classified as yacht rock, and they kind of go into it's at one point somebody what is like a music critic, she basically says it's kind of like how the congressional definition of pornography,
Oh yeah, I
where
know it. Yeah, I know it when I see it.
you
Right.
know it when you hear it, you know it when you
Yeah.
see it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Uh, so yeah, but no, I definitely recommend checking it out if you're a music fan, especially if you're a yacht rock fan. And that got me into listening to the Doobie Brothers. They
Mm-hmm.
talk about the Doobie because Michael McDonald obviously was a big part of their band. So I'll just recommend two. I listened to two Doobie Brothers albums, Minute by Minute, which is probably their big hit
Uh-huh.
album, and then the album right before that is called Living on the Fault Line. I think it's called
Okay.
something along those lines. But both great albums. Michael McDonald's on both of them, so I would
Yeah, the
recommend
Doobie
checking
Brothers
those
are
out.
one of those bands where I know the hits.
Yep.
Basically, I know the radio songs.
Yeah.
Never actually like gone back and done a deep dive on the Doobie Brothers.
Yeah. Well, but yeah, definitely check that out. And trying to think if I watched anything else. Oh, I did watch another show on Max that just came out today. Creature Commandos. It's an animated show, but it's
Mm-hmm.
definitely not for kids.
Okay.
Um, it's part of the this new DC universe that James Gunn is crafting.
Uh-huh.
So it's an animated show, but it actually picks up as a sequel, so sort of, to the Suicide Squad, the good Suicide Squad movie that came
Yeah.
out with Idris Elba and John Cena as Peacemaker, and then
Not
also the
the not that terrible one that
no, not
was
that one.
was it Will Smith? Was Will Smith
Yes,
in the really
Will
bad one?
Smith. Yep, Will Smith and well, Margot Robbie was in both of them, but
Mm.
it's Harley Quinn. But yeah, so the second one, and then also it's a follow up to Peacemaker. If you watch the show Peacemaker with John Cena,
Oh, okay.
that was on Max.
I did forget. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say what's unique about it is it's animated, but it's a follow up to these live action shows. So
Uh-huh.
um, so I'm sure so they released 2 episodes today. Was able to check them out during lunch. So
Thumbs
um,
up.
yeah, yeah. So far so good. They're short. They're only like 20 minutes a piece. So
Yeah, your mention of animated stuff actually reminded me. We did go into the Friday after Thanksgiving. We took the girls to see Moana 2 in theaters.
oh yeah,
So girls loved it. My wife and I were a little bit disappointed though. The the songs from this felt like the made for TV versions of the original Moana songs. They didn't have Lin Manuel Miranda writing the songs here,
ah,
and you could tell it was like, how do we take the songs from Moana and make them just a little different
right,
enough so they sound kind of the same, but they're not the same. And it was basically just here's knockoff Moana. The storyline kind of like was pretty shallow, and
yeah.
so girls liked it. Wife and I, who really enjoyed the first Moana, were a little let down.
Yeah, my wife took my daughters to see it. Everybody came back, thought it was good. My youngest really liked it so much that she went on Disney Plus and like, oh, I want to watch Moana, and I'm like, well, you can't watch the second one yet. You have to watch.
Yeah. You
But
have to
apparently
watch
there
the
was
first
like
one.
apparently they have like a making of documentary on Disney Plus for the second one right now.
So good enough.
Good enough, yeah. All right. Moving along here, we're going to get into the college football of the weekend. College football winding down. Conference
Speaking
championships this week, yeah.
speaking of winding down, picks this week.
Oof,
Did not.
yeah.
You're not like George in this. You're not going to go out on a high note here.
No, absolutely not. I'm going to go out kind of like Mac Brown, I guess, at North Carolina, which I put in the notes last week to mention this, and I forgot to, but it's actually more prudent that I mention it this week because I don't know if you saw this, who interviewed for the North Carolina job.
I did not.
How about Bill Belichick?
There we go. That's a name.
I mean,
I was really hoping you were going to tell me Mike McCarthy.
No, I mean he might be on the list. I don't know, but like not yet.
Not yet. He'll be in the second round of interviews.
Yeah, he's in the second round. No, it came out today. It was reported by multiple sources that Belichick like actually interviewed for the job. Obviously, he wants to get back into coaching. He's keeping all options open, it sounds like.
I just can't imagine him at his age wanting to get into the NIL business.
No.
Like Nick Saban left because he hated it.
Unless he hires like a young guy that basically takes care of all that.
To run the transfer portal, basically.
Right. And then all he has to worry about is being a coach, which,
right.
I mean, Chip Kelly went from being a head coach at UCLA to the offensive coordinator at Ohio State just so he didn't have to deal with that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and not to compare Chip Kelly to Bill Belichick, but I mean, like, to your point. So let's talk about some games we watched. Speaking of Ohio State, watched their game with Michigan. That was a very surprising outcome and a very surprising aftermath, I would say.
I would say so. I got to see the end of it when I think Ohio State was basically not able to get it done at the end. Michigan just held on. I think I just like turned it off after that because I think this weekend we were kind of all over the place because I was off from work. And so, but I think someone said that this was basically the equivalent of a 2-seed beating or a 15-seed beating a 2-seed in the March Madness tournament based on the size of it was like a 20-point spread.
It was 20.5. Yeah. Cause
so based on like the probabilities of that, it's pretty unlikely. And so, but that's like kind of what you get when you get these rivalry games is like you're going to play closer than what you would expect from just like a normal metrics would tell you.
Yeah. Real quick, just to go back, we were talking about my picks. I did go. So for the week, I went 3-7.
Mm-hmm.
Rounded out the year at 71-69. So made a profit for the year, but led to your point, didn't go out and. What made me think about it was one of the games I picked was I laid the 20.5 with Ohio State. So
that's how they get you.
That's why the bots stopped following us because I laid.
Oh man, that's it. The picks. I bet the bots were probably on us to try to get gambling advice, and then they realized maybe we're barking up the wrong tree here.
This guy doesn't know what he's talking about.
What
other games did you watch?
I watched the beginning of Syracuse Miami because I needed to do an HEB run in the middle of that. We were texting during this because Miami got up big really quick, and I said, I don't think Syracuse is going to pull the upset. I pull my phone out in the checkout line, and you say, au contraire.
I believe it was the Kramer gif of, well, I think you're wrong.
Yeah, I was wrong. So Miami, who's kind of flirted with disaster all season, flirted with disaster once again and lost to Syracuse.
Yeah, and shout out to former Ohio State quarterback Kyle McCord, who is now the quarterback at Syracuse. So on the day Ohio State loses to Michigan, Kyle McCord beats Miami, and that allows Clemson to get into the ACC championship, which I'll talk about here in a minute. Obviously, I'm sure you watched the Lone Star Showdown or whatever it's called.
The best game of the weekend, I believe, is how someone would refer to it.
There's a folks in College Station who might disagree with you, but yeah, I see your point.
That's a shame. This was a 17-7 game, and it really could have been worse given the fact that Texas had interception return for a touchdown. They had another fumble in the red zone. So A&M never. So they had that first drive where they turned it over on downs. Second drive they had the actual turnover, interception, and then basically never really seemed to threaten offensively. They got their other opportunity came off a blocked punt, and so they got it down to the one, and then Texas blew them up when they were down 10. They didn't take the points. They went for it, tried to, and then the Texas defensive line just blew the play up, and that was basically the ball game. But really, I thought Texas played a good game offensively, but was really impressed with their defense coming out of this one. So, just happy to get a win, get into the
Well,
SEC. They just took
yeah,
care of business, and they're in the SEC championship game now, which I'm sure we'll get to.
yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's good for them to get some momentum going, especially since considering they're gonna have a rematch with Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll just mention, we kind of alluded to it a minute ago, the Nebraska Iowa game. I watched a little bit of it. I didn't see I didn't stay up till the end, but I saw the aftermath with the whole Matt Rule telling his captains not to shake hands and all that. The next
It was
day.
a real brouhaha.
It was. I mean, look, it was more exciting than the game itself. I mean, it was 13-10 was the final, so I mean, it's not like
No, that's
typical Big Ten.
that's a Nebraska Iowa score for you right there.
Yeah. Okay, so we mentioned the conference championship. So since I can't do picks anymore, I
Mm-hmm.
figured I would just run through the conference championship games and just give you my picks, if that's okay.
Yeah, and
So
I've got a little money on a couple of these, so I'll kind of
okay.
note them as we come to them.
Okay, so we'll start on. There's 3 on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Conference USA, Western Kentucky versus Jacksonville State. By the way, shout out to Rich Rodriguez, the head coach at Jacksonville State. That's
Former Michigan coach.
former Tulane coach as well, I
Oh
believe.
yeah, that's right.
But unfortunately, I'm going against them. I'm going to take Western Kentucky the 4.5.
All right.
Mountain West game, UNLV, Boise State. This is a rematch, I believe, from earlier in the year. Boise State is laying 4. I'm going to lay the 4 with Boise State, and
Yeah, I was thinking about throwing a little bit on Boise State there.
yeah, well, future Cowboy legend Ashton Genty.
Whoa. We'll get to this, but I believe Mr. Burden is the
Ah,
actual future Cowboy legend now,
okay,
according to
fair enough.
Dane Brugler.
Fair enough. And then also on Friday, the American Athletic Conference, Tulane and Army. Army is getting 6 points. I'm taking the 6 with Army, but you have a
Yeah,
take. It looks like
I bet it late, and so it got down to +5. I saw it at +5.5 at Rebet, but but it was juiced pretty big. I think it was like -130, and so I ended up taking the +5 at like -115 on Fliff. So
okay.
yeah, so I'm on Army there. What I heard is the weather's supposed to be pretty bad. It's supposed to be cold, rainy, windy up there, and I think
Where
that kind of plays into Army's play style there because they don't throw the ball much.
where are they playing?
That I can't remember. I just remember on the Bet the Process podcast.
I got it here. They're playing at Army. They're playing at West Point.
Yeah, so it's supposed to be pretty nasty from what I heard, and so I figured that sort of plays into Army's play style.
Is that weird that a conference championship game doesn't have
It's,
a neutral site? I mean, I guess I don't
it
know.
is it is kind of weird. I mean,
I would. I don't know.
the Big 12 would play their conference championships in Houston, which was technically neutral, although it was a little closer for some teams than others. So maybe that's
It's in Jerry's world this year.
right.
Speaking of which, Big 12 championship, Iowa State, Arizona State. Arizona State is laying 2 points. I'm going to take the Cyclones. I'm going to take the points with the Cyclones.
Mm-hmm.
The Mid-Atlantic Conference, the MAC, return of the MAC.
The MAC, not the MAC.
Right.
1A.
Right,
1A.
1A, yes. Ohio University, the Bobcats, against Miami of Ohio. Shout out to Ben Roethlisberger, wherever you are.
Mm-hmm.
Miami of Ohio laying 2.5. I'm going to take the 2.5. I'm going to lay the 2.5 of Miami of Ohio. Looks like you're going with the
I'm
Bobcats.
gonna take the 2.5. I actually may put a little bit on Ohio money line here too.
Okay, and then we get into the big games here. SEC, Georgia versus Texas. Texas minus 2.5. I'm going to take the plus. I'm going to take the 2.5 with Georgia. That's more. That's more for you, but
Yeah, I'm actually on Texas here just because the Rufus Peabody, his numbers have it as Texas -4 here,
okay,
and so I'm betting his numbers basically, and so
okay.
that's the only reason I'm there. I usually don't like to bet on my own team.
It's
It's
hard to beat, and it's hard to beat the same team twice. And I don't think this Georgia team is the same team that beat Texas early in
yeah,
the year.
and they played a better second half, right? Like they're
Yeah,
so you're kind of
I
hoping that they would bounce back.
I really want to watch this game. I'm glad it's on in the afternoon so I can watch it because a couple of the Saints podcasts I listen to are big on Quinn Ewers possibly as a
Hmm.
prospect for the Saints. I haven't been blown away by him in a little bit I've watched, so be interested to
He
watch him.
Yeah, he has his moments, but I mean, he's probably going to get picked earlier than he should just because he's a quarterback, though.
Right, right. And then Sun Belt Conference, Marshall University against Louisiana, my hometown university, not the school I went to, but
Hmm.
school from my hometown. Louisiana is laying 5.5 points. I will lay the 5.5 there. I do know Marshall has an edge rusher named Mike Green, who's supposed to be like really, really good. So just something to
Mean
keep an eye
Mike
on.
Green.
Mean Mike Green, yes. Playing for the Mean Green, playing for the what's Marshall Thundering Herd. That's the
Mm.
Thundering Herd.
They are green,
Mean Green is North Texas.
correct?
Uh, all right, and then Big Ten, Penn State, Oregon. Oregon laying 3.5. I'm going to take Penn State plus the 3.5. What
Yeah,
say you there?
I'm also on Penn State +3.5.
Okay,
I
and
think this
then
game is actually like closer to Penn State, and that's like part of it. It's
it's
like a
in
little
yeah, it's in Indianapolis. So yeah,
yeah. So I think they've got a travel advantage there.
yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, Oregon. Every Big Ten game Oregon plays, they got to travel 4 states over
Right.
at least, right? And then finally, the ACC, Clemson, SMU. SMU is laying 2.5. I'm going to take Clemson plus 2.5. This game, this reminds me of like those years Alabama would lose games but still wind up in the SEC championship.
And then
And
they would
you
just
knew,
wipe the floor with whoever
yeah,
was there.
that's what I. And it's no disrespect to SMU. It just that feels like what's going to happen here with Clemson.
Right.
And just for yucks, I put Clemson, Penn State, Georgia, and Iowa State in a little 4-leg parlay. Pays out 9-1.
There you
So I think I have officially graduated to full degenerate.
go. Well, welcome aboard.
All right. Anything else from the college world you want to talk about?
No, I think we're ready to get to the pros, the big
Let's get
boys.
let's get to the pros. All right. So for weekly recap here, week 13, we were both 9-7 for the week. So
Yeah,
both
the
500.
Broncos bailed me out in that last game.
Yeah, yeah. No, I had the Browns in that one, so yeah,
Yeah,
that,
so
that could have been
because we were
could have
on,
been 10-6.
yeah, I think you
That's
were
right. That's right. Yeah, we were on opposite sides. That's right.
Yep.
So for me, for the year, I'm 93-102. You are 97-98.
I just keep sniffing 500. Like I
Yeah,
can't quite get over the hump.
you're not quite even, Steven, but you're getting there.
Mm.
Now my straight up picks for the week, I was 6-10. I'm 110-85 for the year. Uh, you know, I know better than to pick the Cardinals now because every time I pick the Cardinals as my upset pick, it doesn't work, and it didn't work this time. It came close. We were close, but close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades, as they say.
Well, they did cover for us at least.
They did cover. Yeah, they did cover. So I'm 8-3 on my upsets for the year. Now we went head to head here. My lock was the Colts
Mm-hmm.
over your upset, the Patriots. So my lock did hit 7-4 there. I've got 7 teams correctly picked. I do not have the entire NFC South anymore. The Falcons screwed me up there. So,
Kirk Cousins, shame on you.
yeah, we'll talk about him.
Yeesh.
Yeesh. Yama hama. So our parlay, our Bless Them Boys parlay, I put some money down at plus 181. So no luck there, but
Yeah, this is actually a case of I forgot to bet this and it saved me
there you
some
go.
money.
But your lock did hit the Chiefs over the Raiders. Now that you had to sweat that one out a little bit.
I did have to sweat it. I think every Chiefs game this year is a little bit of a sweat.
Yeah. Okay. So let's get into the games themselves. So nobody on a bye this week in week 13. Start with Thanksgiving. We had 3 games. Saints legend Al Qadim Muhammad, who, by the way, I didn't even realize was still playing in the NFL, but he played in this game.
He made a play in this game, didn't he?
And he made a play, made a couple plays. He presents Lions 23, Bears 20, the game that lost Matt Eberflus's job, or put the final nail in the coffin, as it were.
Right, and this looked like, because we were on opposite sides on this. I had the Lions, you had the Bears, and it looked like in the first half I was on my way to just rolling with it.
Yeah.
But the Bears offense kind of got going in the second half. I think Detroit had some miscues that kind of like let Chicago hang around, and then the debacle at the end is just. I mean, I don't know if Caleb thought they had more time than he did, but like you can make a play, you can snap the ball there, but you have to get there faster, and B, you can't just throw airmail it into the ceiling. Like that's the problem, is like the operation. It wasn't just Eberflus, but it was also like, I'm fine with running a play there without calling the timeout, but you have to get it faster than that.
Well, and two, like if you're like, don't be afraid as a head coach to just call a timeout. I mean, like, let's just,
they don't roll over to next week, buddy.
Right. But yeah, so I kind of, the reason I took the points with the Bears is I just felt like the Bears team was good enough to keep it close, which they ended up in the second half, to your point, doing that. But yeah, I mean, and then the Lions, we're recording this on Thursday, so the Lions are actually playing right now. But they just, they just seem like one of the teams to beat. We'll talk about some other teams here in a minute, but they seem like they've just got this the engine running with Gibbs and Montgomery. You and I were talking before we turned the mics on.
Mm-hmm.
Probably the best running back duo in the NFL by far, and
one of the best offensive lines in the NFL too.
Absolutely.
I think what the question for them is going to be: do they eventually get to the point where the injuries? I think they've had some mounting injuries on the defensive side of the ball, and is that going to be too much to overcome?
Well, I mean, they signed Saints legend Quan Alexander, and they signed Jamal Adams this week, so that'll tell you how it's going.
Pretty desperate right there.
Who I think Jamal Adams, we talked about him last week in the Hall of Fame discussion, because isn't he like? Was it Jamal?
No, are you thinking of Jamal Lewis?
No. Is Jamal Adams not? I thought he was. I could be wrong.
No,
I'll look it up while you talk about the next game here.
All right, Everson Walls presents Cowboys 27, Giants 20. This was 27-13 until kind of a late Giants touchdown made it a one-possession game. The Giants' best offense in this game was really just Drew Lock scrambling forward out of the pocket. That was kind of like their 2 biggest plays. He was bad. The Cowboys' defense has continued to improve. And so, I think this is just more the Giants are really, really bad. Cooper Rush has actually managed to just be a bus driver and manage the offense. And we talked about this last week, but I'm just happy to continue to beat division rivals regardless of what it does to our draft pick. We're not going to get up high enough to take Travis Hunter. So I'm fine with just, hey, let's beat the Washington, let's beat New York, and let's beat Philly. So this was a pretty ugly offensive game for most of it, to be honest.
I mean, I don't know how to tell you this, Brandon, but the Cowboys are actually still in the playoff hunt, technically.
Yeah, you're telling me
So,
there's a chance.
telling you there's a chance. It was Earl Thomas was who I was thinking.
Oh, okay. You,
I knew it was a Seattle defensive back. But
the he's a safety that can cover deep though, not the
fair enough.
whereas Jamal Adams, he might want to just turn him into a linebacker.
All right. Yeah, for the Giants, it's getting bad.
Yeah,
It's I mean, I thought Drew Lock may may screw up their draft plans, and he still might, but
yeah. They had that first drive, and then he had that big scramble
yeah.
up the middle, and then after that, it was nothing until the very end. So it was a pretty filthy display. They did manage to get Malik Neighbors the ball, so he wasn't, barking in the locker room
Eventually,
after the game. well,
eventually they did, yeah.
Well, they actually started this week. They got him involved early because didn't want him going off in the locker room about waiting until they were down 30 points to.
That's right.
To
That's right. Yeah.
You got anything else on this one?
No, look, I'm happy for the Cowboys that they could get a win. Got a big Monday night game coming up. We'll talk about here in a little bit.
Oh boy, one that cannot be
Uh,
flexed.
We talked about the Lions playing right now. The team they're playing right now, the Packers, on Thanksgiving night. Their game was brought to you by Greg Jennings. They took care of business against the Dolphins, 30-17. Yeah, I should have known better than to take the Dolphins on cold weather.
Yeah, that was I had no real insight into this game. I was like, warm weather team going to cold weather. I will take the cold weather.
It's not rocket science.
Yeah, but very, very, very simple analytics going on up here.
The thing about the Packers, I tried to articulate this last week. I don't know how good a job I did, but they just are very. They're not I guess because it's a couple things, right? This team, the Packers are 9-3, and they're third place in their division. So it's hard to be blown away by them, I guess. And they're not really flashy. They're not like Josh Jacobs is doing a lot of the work. Love in this game, Love was very efficient. I think it was like 21-28.
Mm-hmm.
Moving it well. I think LaFleur is going to end up getting Coach of the Year considerations. He should.
Absolutely, especially given what they did with Jordan Love out.
Right. Yeah. With Malik Willis when he had to take over. We talked about that a couple weeks ago. Yeah. I think for the Dolphins, or actually, one more thing on the Packers. Have you heard this Jordan Love Toyota-thon theory?
I have not.
I heard this on a podcast today. It was on Mina Kimes' podcast. So apparently the last 2 years, you know how the last 2 years at a certain point, like Jordan Love's plays gotten better?
Uh-huh.
Apparently it's coincided with the Toyota-thon. Now, he doesn't promote Toyota-thon. He doesn't do commercials for Toyota or anything like that. So, yeah, it's just apparently once Toyota-thon starts, Jordan Love plays well.
If you're a competitor, if you're one of their division rivals, do you go to Toyota and you say, "Listen, we'll give you money to stop running the Toyota, change the marketing. You got to get rid of Toyota-thon. We'll give you money for it." Is that something you consider doing?
I mean, look, you would think Detroit, right? I mean,
yeah. Detroit, Minnesota. I mean, Minnesota needs them to kind of back off too.
Yeah. Yeah, and then for the Dolphins, I heard some rumblings. We'll talk more about this a little later, but Mike McDaniel's seat might be a little warm.
Yeah, it just feels like their offense is very fragile, so to speak. If it's not, if things aren't going perfect, when it's going well,
right,
it looks great, and when it's not, everything just sort of seems discombobulated, and you lose. You basically there's no contingency plans.
Right.
Really, it's like this is our plan A, and if that doesn't work, we'll keep trying plan A.
Right. The way I heard it on Mina Kimes' podcast, her guest was Marshall Newhouse, former offensive lineman in the league. And he basically described it as if Tua gets off schedule, like if Tua is not on schedule, then they're screwed pretty much. Like
Yep.
So.
And if Tua's not there, he's very off schedule.
They're really screwed. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's move along here. Black Friday game. Rich Gannon presents Chiefs 19, Raiders 17. I wanted so bad to pay you. You took the points with the Raiders. Good for you.
Mm-hmm.
I laid the points with the Chiefs. Like and I put in the notes here, the Chiefs are just luring us into not believing in them. It's almost like they're just gonna keep doing this every week, and then when it gets to the playoffs, we're gonna be like you and I talked, I think last week or the week before, like what are the odds of them? Like what can we wager on them losing in the divisional round, right?
Exactly.
And we're gonna get there, and then they're gonna flip a switch, and it's like, oh, here we go.
I mean, for all the trouble that they're having, they're still winning these games. But like, this was the perfect scenario for me because I locked the Chiefs, but I also took the points. So this is a win-win situation for me. I don't know. I mean, the defense is good, and I think that's what's kind of allowed them to hang around, and that's going to be what really has driven their success. So as long as they can continue to do that, they're going to be in close games, but they have the sort of wherewithal to get through that and pull them out. And then as Antonio Pierce said, the worst team in the league, the Raiders. I did pull up. I talked about the Bet the Process podcast and their numbers, and they also published their team ratings online on unabated.com. So right now the Chiefs are 5th. Their power rating is about a 5.9, so about 5 points better than an average. 5.9 points better than an average team on a neutral field. To give you some context, Detroit is number 1 at 9.2, Baltimore at 8.6, Buffalo 7.2, Philly at 7.
Is this after week? Is this after week 13?
This was updated yesterday.
Okay, so
yeah, so they're still, they're kind of in that second tier below, or I guess kind of Detroit and Baltimore are the upper tier. Then it's Buffalo and Philly, and then about a point and a quarter drop down to Kansas City, who is half a point above Minnesota, and then Green Bay's at 3 points.
Okay.
So just to give you a little kind of idea of what they look like from a power rating.
Good
standpoint.
Context there. Yeah, I mean, to just touch on the Raiders for a second, that's another team that's going to have a lot of change in the offseason, it seems like.
Mm-hmm.
Give credit to Aiden O'Connell. Like, he played relatively well, I would say. I think Brock Bowers, he's not going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year.
I have him on my fantasy team, and that kid he is something else. So I don't know if you saw this.
Go ahead.
So when the Giants, the Giants were on that off-season Hard Knocks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When they were preparing for the draft, they reached out to Nick Saban and asked him kind of his thoughts, and he said there were 2 players that we had to scheme directly to try to stop. One of those was Malik Neighbors, and the other one was Brock Bowers.
Makes sense. Yeah. I can't remember if I threw any money down on him for Offensive Rookie of the Year. His odds were like 10-1, I want to say, even after. I mean, he's not going to win it. It's going to be Daniels or Bo Nix at this point. But I mean,
yeah, Daniels just feels like as long as the wheels don't completely fall off, he's kind of locked it up. There's still, I don't think the door's closed, but I think he would need to completely fall off for it to for one of those other two guys to kind of step in
Oh,
and
I
take
did.
it.
I did put some money down. He was at nine. He was at plus 980.
Ah, I'm actually
So I put
surprised
some.
it was that short. I figured it would be, about 1,000. I mean, I guess that's
Yeah, it's
about
close
right.
enough. Right? Close enough. Yeah. So moving on here. Do you want to take this first Sunday early game?
Oh, I'm surprised you don't want to take this. I know how much you enjoy
Yeah.
the
No,
Falcons.
I'll let you have. I'll let you go ahead.
Michael Burner Turner presents Chargers 17, Falcons 13. The highlights I saw of this of Kirk Cousins throwing pick sixes, it doesn't look like he can drive the ball. Like that was the I mean, I know he's a statue in the pocket. Um and he's never, even before the Achilles, he was never a particularly mobile guy. But
Yeah.
it just the pass that he threw to the flat that got picked off in return just looked like it had nothing. It looked like a Matt Schaub throw. You remember
It.
when Matt Schaub went through
Yeah.
that time where he threw a pick six in every game? He had nothing on it. That's what it looked like.
The I thought the worst one was they're in the red zone, Atlanta that is, and he steps up and he just lofts a ball into the end zone with like nothing on it. And
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the same corner that had the pick six, just kind of grabs it out of the air, and then that's it. And then they take off out of the end zone. But this was it was surprise. So I kind of thought Atlanta would win this game only because the Chargers were coming off a Monday night game,
Mm-hmm.
having to come across country, noon kickoff. Like everything really set up for the Falcons to win this game.
Mm-hmm.
And credit to the Chargers for like taking care of business. Lad McConkey had 100 yards receiving in the first half.
Yeah.
He had like
Speaking of
eight,
speaking
like
of Georgia receivers just lighting the world on
right.
fire.
But I think he got injured. I think he's questionable
he
for this week's game.
Yeah, I think the fantasy podcast I was listening to said they expect him to play, but he is a little banged up right now.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, and then the Chargers are one of those teams that, like, if they can kind of get some momentum here going, I know we had talked about this is their kind of the tough part of their schedule now.
Mm-hmm.
Coming off playing the Ravens and now the Falcons, they're going to play the Chiefs this week. And then they're moving forward. So if they can get through this relatively unscathed, then they might be able to make a bit of a run here in the playoffs.
Yeah, there's three. I think there's three wild card spots, and there's like five teams that really have an actual shot at them.
Yep.
I think them, Denver, Baltimore, those feel like the safe picks to get in, right?
Yep.
Like it just feels like those are the best teams, and then teams like Indianapolis and who else?
Cincinnati.
Cincinnati. We'll get to
Well,
them. We'll get to them.
Well, I mean,
next,
they're fighting uphill battles, right? Like Indianapolis is the closest in terms of
win-loss.
wins and losses. I mean, Cincinnati, we've talked about them for weeks. Like if they could just string some wins together, but they're not stringing any wins together.
They're not stringing any wins together. Not even.
Speaking of which, Neil O'Donnell, Cowboys Super Bowl legend, Neil O'Donnell.
That's right.
Presents the Bengals' latest loss: Steelers 44, Bengals 38. I just like they're two teams that I keep expecting the Steelers to lose, and they don't. I keep expecting the Bengals to win, and they don't. So yeah, this is like this is I almost say it was like Bizarro World, but this I gotta give credit to the Steelers. I gotta give credit to Mike Tomlin, man. Like we were like, why are you gonna bench Justin Fields? He's 4-2. He's doing fine. And then he puts Russell Wilson in there. And oh, by the way, Russell Wilson's 5-0 in his starts, and he looks like a top 10 quarterback in the NFL.
He put up 400 yards passing.
Yeah.
This time, which when was the last time that he actually put up 400 yards or more?
I saw this. I don't remember. It
It
was
is.
like,
It's been quite a bit.
yeah.
Let's
What
see.
what I find interesting while you're looking that up is, Pittsburgh's got this pending game on Christmas Day with the Chiefs, right?
Mm-hmm.
That could end up being for the number 2 seed.
Right.
Um, or because like if the Chiefs maybe stumble before that, Buffalo overtakes them, and then and what would be even more interesting is if the Steelers get that 2 seed, they'll most likely play the Broncos in the first round.
In the
So,
rematch of the Tim Tebow game.
right. Well, yeah, and then also the Russ revenge game
Mm.
because
So
Russell didn't play because when they played earlier this season, it was Justin Fields was quarterback.
that's right.
So, um, yeah, so I'm kind of rooting for that, honestly. Like, I just think that would be fun to see. But
Okay.
yeah, Pittsburgh, they look like the real deal right now. Go
Okay, I
ahead.
pulled it up. The last time Russ had 400 yards, he's done it 3 times in his career, including last week.
Okay.
The last time he did it was September 22nd, 2019. So 5 years, over 5 years since he last threw for over 400 yards.
With the Broncos?
No, that was with 2019. That was with Seattle.
Still Seattle? Okay. I
Yeah. Do you
couldn't
want to know
remember.
who the opponent was?
Is it the Saints?
It was the Saints in New Orleans in
The
a
way you,
loss.
the way you,
The Saints won that game though, 33-27. So
I'm trying to remember that game. The only Seattle Saints game that's coming to mind is the Taysom Hill, but that was with Geno. That was when Seattle had Geno at that time.
mhm.
Yeah, I don't remember that one. Oh well, that's a shame.
That's a shame.
Uh, anything? So the Bengals, real quick. Yeah, Burrow's
So
still good. Bengals
I,
defense isn't. So like,
I wanted to bring this up because Joe Burrow destined to end up like Dan Marino? Both of them reached the Super Bowl in their second season, and given the
yeah,
way things have gone in Cincinnati, the way they've sort of the defense is cratered, they've infuriated T. Higgins to the point where he will likely be gone. They're messing with
yep,
Jamar Chase's money now.
yep.
Like if he doesn't get out of there, like I can see it getting to the point where like um
I saw a headline today. I didn't read the article, but I saw a headline where it's basically intimated. You know how the Chiefs traded Tyreek Hill, like
mhm,
kind of at the peak of his powers,
right.
and that ended up propelling the Chiefs into what they are now.
Mhm.
The article was basically intimating that maybe the Bengals can do the same thing with Jamar Chase. Like if they trade Jamar Chase right now and get capital back for him,
Mhm.
could they could that then lead them to, you know, but I mean the difference was the Chiefs had won a Super Bowl by that point
Right.
with
I mean,
with
the
Tyreek.
Bengals reached one at
Right.
least, but
Yeah, they
yeah,
did. I don't know that team. I just like it's we talked about it. Like they're weird. Like they have Burrow, they have Chase. Trey Hendrickson's leading the league in sacks.
but
Saints legend
he is
Trey
the only
Hendrickson.
defensive player doing anything.
Fair enough, but I mean, like you would think that would count for something, but
Hmm.
I
Not
guess not.
enough.
Guess not. Moving on.
Jim McMahon presents Vikings 23, Cardinals 22. You had the Cardinals, I had the Vikings here. The Cardinals are just the most unfigureoutable team in the league. The Vikings do just enough to win, but like I can't I never have an idea. Like they can come out and light the world on fire, or they can come out and just lay an egg, and you never know which one it's going to be until you're, more than halfway through the game, and sometimes not even then.
This is the Cardinals you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. This kind of the reason I took the Cardinals is, this is we talked about this with the Packers. The Vikings, like, I just keep waiting for the Vikings to fall on their face.
Mm-hmm.
Almost like I'm like Darnold can't keep doing this, can he? And like I know Flores has got that defense playing really well, and you know, I just thought, and I thought that Murray and the Cardinals would come out with a little more fire in there, which I guess they did.
They were up for
Uh,
a while.
they were up for a while. There was an interesting, I forget who was talking about this. There was an interesting sequence there towards the end where Cardinals were up 19-16. They had a 4th and goal, and they opted to kick the field goal to go up
Yeah, to
22 to
go up
16.
6.
To go up 6, and someone was trying to argue that they actually should have gone for it.
Yeah, I think that's right, because what you're doing there is you're kicking the field goal, you're basically determining that you're basically telling the other team, you have to
Right,
be more aggressive now, right?
right,
Because they
right,
have to go score a touchdown, so if you go for it, you score the touchdown, you win, the game's over, or the opponent is now down
right.
3 and they're not as incentivized to go out and try to get the win. They're basically just going to go and try to probably most likely play for the field goal. So really,
Yeah,
the optimal decision there is to go for it.
yeah. I thought that was an interesting strategy, an interesting discussion. So that's why I brought it up. So, but yeah, the Cardinals. I guess they're still in the West race. They've got a big game with Seattle coming up this week. But the Vikings, yeah, the Vikings just keep humming along. They're just,
Yeah,
you know,
they've had some very ugly wins. They keep winning, but they've been ugly. They've had some ugly ones, like that one against the Jaguars, where it was like what 12-6 or something.
no, yeah. Was that the Jaguars? Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, that was the Mac Jones game.
hmm
That was
correct.
yeah,
Speaking of Mac Jones, we're
yeah.
going to get another game from him because Jason Babin presents Texans 23, Jaguars 20. Aziz Al Shair basically decapitates Trevor Lawrence. He has been suspended for 3 games, and I think the suspension is not based on this one hit. If this was a
No,
solo hit, like you can find
now,
clips of Al Shair just
yeah. Now
causing problems.
we got to be careful, or Nick Cesario is going to come after us. I don't know if you saw his press conference there.
I did not, but
uh,
he was defending his guy.
he was, yeah, he was, and look, I get it, right? And his big thing, I think, was more consistency from the league about the suspension, about like uh, just that's it felt like it was more of a, yeah, he's defending his guy, he's doing what he should do as a GM, but it's
Mm-hmm.
also a message to the league of like, look, it's football, like you gotta, you know, guys are gonna get hit hard, like, I mean, it's one of those kind of things, and I've heard varying opinions about it, like, you know, as Alzair being a dirty player. I've heard everything. So I know he appealed his suspension yesterday,
Uh
and
huh.
it was upheld uh, by forget who it was from the league that heard his appeal. But yeah, so for the Jaguars, it looks like Lawrence is done for the year now.
Yeah,
Which,
I would think so. I
I
don't.
mean,
I think he just kind of. This season's lost. You've already threatened to
yeah.
fire your head coach. What is the point of bringing him back
By the
anymore
way,
for this?
why is Peterson still the coach of this team? Like,
They gave
what
him the ultimatum against the Lions, and then
what are we doing? Like,
then they gave up 50 points,
the
and
the funniest thing would be is if they end up not firing him at this point. Like, I'm kind of
maybe he
like, that would be.
maybe he has compromising photos of the owner or something.
And the other funny thing was, until Monday night, until Denver beat Cleveland, the Jaguars were holding the number one pick in the draft, but also still in the playoff hunt.
Yeah,
But the Denver win eliminated them. So
gotcha. Okay.
yeah, so it won't be. So yeah, we'll see what Mac Jones has the rest of the year. For the Texans, yeah, this is the most unimpressive division leader I've ever seen. Um, if the if the Colts, if Anthony Richardson, which I think we'll talk about the Colts next, yeah, if they can play, if Richardson can play like he did against the Patriots, and maybe maybe even a level above,
Mm-hmm.
this could get interesting down the stretch. Because I feel the Texans are going to lose their next 3 games. They have a bye week this week, but then their next 3 games: Dolphins, Chiefs, Ravens.
Mm-hmm. That's
Uh,
some tough matchups.
and that's 10 days. That's 3 games in 10 days that they have to play.
Yeah, the I was talking to my cousin, one of my cousins who's a big Texans fan, and kind of asked him, and he's like, and he basically said like, they're going to win the division and they'll get a playoff game. Maybe they win one game, but he's like, I don't see any way that they go on any sort of run at this
I
point.
mean, who are they going to beat? Like what? I mean, unless the Chargers, because I think right now, if the playoffs started today, it would be Baltimore. I think
Mm-hmm.
I'd have to look it up, but I mean, unless like there's injuries or something, like I just don't see this team doing anything. I mean, like
Well, I mean, they
I
played
just
Baltimore last year in the divisional round, and they got run out of the building basically in
right
the second half.
in the yeah. I mean, and we talked about it like in the wild card round they played Cleveland, that was that was with Flacco, and like they
Mm-hmm.
just
That was when the Flacco magic ran out.
so actually sorry no if the playoffs started today it would be Chargers. It would be
Yes.
Chargers Texans. So and that's look same thing. Like you telling me Justin Herbert's not gonna with Harbaugh and all that like I
Depending on
would
how
pick
healthy
Denver
Lad
over
McConkey is.
Houston right now if we're being honest. But anyway, moving along here. Anything else on that game before we? All right, moving on here. Adam Vinatieri presents Colts 25, Patriots 24. Um, you had the points with the Patriots, so you hit. I laid 2.5 with the Colts. I missed. So look, I mentioned it a minute ago. If Richardson plays kind of the way he played this week, I think the Colts have a chance to make a run at this with the Texans not being overly impressive. Uh,
They do
but
have an uphill battle having lost both matchups, though.
twice,
That's
right?
yep.
Yeah. So, but like I said, if the Texans lose their next 3, so here, let me. I had this. I spent most of my evening on Sunday just kind of going through these playoff scenarios. But the Texans are currently 8-5.
Mm-hmm.
Colts are 6-7. So the Texans would have to lose the rest of their games, basically.
I think they can win one more, right? But that would
Well,
also require Indianapolis to win out.
right. If what the yeah if the Texans win 2 more games, it's over, pretty much.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
So, and I talked about the Titans maybe making a run at it last week, but I don't think that's going to happen. Although it could come down the pike that the Titans Texans Week 18 game matters for the Texans because
Mm-hmm.
if they lose these 3 and the Colts are sitting at 8 wins come Week 18, or yeah, if the Colts are at 8 wins and the Texans are at 8 wins, then uh, then the Texans are going to have to get to 9 wins to take advantage of that tiebreaker.
Right.
But yeah, for the Colts, look, I think for them, yeah, you want to make the playoffs, but you also want to make sure Richardson's showing improvements, and I think he is. I think he's
been
getting
better
there.
since he got back.
Yeah, so and then for the Patriots, you got to love the Drake, right?
We love the Drake.
You got to love the Drake. I know he had a cup. I mean, he had a really good showing in this game. I thought, and the little bit I watched of it, I didn't watch a ton of it.
Yeah, I don't even know that I saw very many highlights of this game, which I guess kind of says something about what the nation feels about the Patriots and the Colts at this point.
Yeah, that's fair. It's fair enough. Excuse me. Yeah. For the Patriots, they've the futures should be bright in New England. I mean, you're gonna have a pick that they can leverage to get Drake some help. And we talked about this before, and I I I still think they're probably going to go receiver unless the top receivers are gone. Then they'll probably go offensive line and build it from
Yeah,
there.
they need all the offensive line help they can get.
Absolutely. One of the reasons Drake is being impressive is he's accomplishing a lot with a little help from the offensive line right now. But
Right.
it looks also looks like Pop Douglas is a pretty good receiver for him.
Yeah, yeah.
So
He has been.
that's good. That's good for him. All right, let's move on to Leon Washington presenting Seahawks 26, Jets 21. So this game, the Seahawks, when you talk about the Seahawks kept the Jets in this game.
Mm-hmm.
There was a sequence, and I meant to have this pulled up because I wanted to go through it. Let me pull it up real quick. So the game starts, and the teams exchange punts. The Jets actually have a long touchdown drive, like an 80-yard touchdown drive, which is then followed up by Jets score 7-0. They kick off to the Seahawks. The Seahawks fumble the kickoff. Jets recover. That leads to the second Jets touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
That gets them to 14-0. Jets had to go for 2 on the second touchdown because they missed the extra point on the first one. Then Jets kick off to the Seahawks. They muff the kickoff but recover it, and then proceed to score a touchdown. So it's 14-7. They kick off to the Jets. The Jets return it for a touchdown. So now it's 21-7. Jets. Jets kick it back to the Seahawks, and Chenault, who is now on the chart. Go ahead.
Not Laviska Chenault.
Yeah, Laviska Chenault, who is now on the Chargers practice squad, and you're about to find out why. He muffs. So actually, he had muffed the previous kickoff that they recovered. He muffs this one, recovers it, but then fumbles it again. The Jets recover.
Impressive. Honestly impressive.
The Jets recover it, and then Rodgers proceeds to throw a pick six to Leonard Williams, who's a defensive lineman, who returns
not a small defensive lineman, not an edge rusher.
No, who returns it? Let me get the number right. 92 yards for a touchdown, and that got it to 21-13 because so the Jets end up blocking the PAT, so it's 21-13, and then we go from there, and the Seahawks eventually figure out a way to overtake the Jets. So just a wacky sequence there. Only the 2024 Jets could be involved in a game like this, I think.
And what's really important about this, Paul?
What's that?
I got a Jets pick correct. I had the Seahawks -2.5. Seahawks cover. I finally get a Jets pick correct. Look at me. I'm turning it around.
There's a feather in your cap.
That's a feather in my cap. Yeah, and I like what the Seahawks defense is like slowly. I think, like I said, we said before, is they had some injuries earlier in the year. McDonald's still working out the kinks in the system there, and they're slowly starting to come around.
We talked about Michael McDonald earlier. Mike McDonald, the Seahawks coach. He's starting to get them. I know they had a lot of injuries too at the beginning of the year. I want to say their entire defensive line, I want to say, was injured at one point, and now they're
having the guys that you actually want to play those positions seems to make a difference, I would think.
Usually does. Anything else on this one?
No, that's it for me.
I'll let you take the next one.
All right, Texas legend Brian No Sackpo presents Commanders 42, Titans 19. The Titan momentum has been stopped. Maybe we should call them the Washington Olympians because they just took down the Titans.
Yeah,
A little bit of Greek mythology humor there for you folks.
This one got ugly quick. Like this one, like I had this one on the TV on the multi-view because I really wanted to get a good look at it, and
did you really want to? I don't think you wanted to look at that.
Well, I mean, I thought I did, but yeah, no, the Commanders were up 14-0 very quickly. The Texans, the Titans had a fumble on a kickoff at one point as well. I think that led to a score that made it 28-0. They salvaged a touchdown right before half, so it was 28-7. I will say though, our guy Will Levis
did not throw an interception.
No interceptions. 18 to 37. That's not great, obviously, but
that would be Richardson-esque, I would say.
Yeah, but he had 2 touchdowns for what that's worth. I mean, but he also had a lot of drops. I don't know if you saw some of the highlights. There was a lot of like balls. The ball was there and just wasn't caught, kind of thing. So take that for what it's worth, I guess. But yeah, look, for the Commanders, this was a good get right game for them. I think they're still obviously right. Yeah, they got right. They're still obviously in the hunt for the playoffs. I don't know about the division now. I think Philadelphia's kind of taken a little bit of a stranglehold on that, but we'll see.
Yeah,
see what happens down the stretch.
They'll probably end up. I would say I would be surprised if they don't end up with a wild card. My hope though is that they need to win to get in that last week against Dallas, and Dallas can spoil their season. That's the way I want to go out this year.
So for that to happen, I would say the Falcons need to get their act together because then that would force the Buccaneers to be the wild card.
Mm-hmm.
And if the Bucks end up tied with the Commanders, the Bucks hold the tiebreaker because they beat them week 1. So, we'll see. I don't see any other. I mean, unless like one of the AFC or one of the NFC West teams can kind of get in the wild card mix as well.
My San Francisco Super Bowl bet is not looking good, Paul.
Yikes.
Yamahama.
Speaking of not looking good, let's move on to the late slate here. Eddie Kennison present Rams 21, Saints 14. That wasn't about the Rams. Rams look fine. For the Saints, came back down to earth a little bit this week. I have here in the notes, Derek Carr ain't it. He's just, and look, obviously, I should start by saying Taysom Hill out for the season, torn ACL. Maybe have been the last snap he took as a Saint. Honestly, there's talk about
Denver.
Him being, yeah. Well, yeah. No, if the Saints get rid of him, Denver Peyton will snatch him up really quick. I mean, look, he's 30, 34, 35, going to be coming off a. If anybody can do it, it'll be Taysom Hill, though. The Saints' defensive line is bad. They just need an overhaul. I mean, the Rams are running the ball at will. I mean, Kyron Williams was just like 4 or 5 yards of carry. Like, it wasn't even.
Unfortunately for the Saints, they've got all that cap space saved up.
Yeah. All right. I will say, they shut the Rams out in the first half. It was.
Well, there's a feather in your cap.
So I mean, that's not nothing. I mean, so for what that's worth, but for the Rams, yeah, this was a win. They just needed this win. I mean, they were coming off that bad loss to Philly on Sunday night, and they just needed to get kind of like the Commanders. They needed to get right game, and the Saints were happy to oblige them in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
My Rams bet to win the NFC West, unlike your 49ers Super Bowl bet, uh, it's still there. Still, we're you know we're plugging
Not
along
showing
here.
off.
No, yeah, we're right in that meaty part of the curve. Right in that meaty part
That's
of the
right.
curve. Let's move on. Anything else you want to mention about either of these teams?
No, these are kind of this was another one I didn't really get to see much of. So just really in it more for your thoughts on the Saints here.
Yeah, I just we're at the point now. Just see what we got the rest of the year. See what Rizzy can do. I mentioned it last week. I or maybe the week before, but I like what Rizzy how he talks about things. I'm getting comfortable with the idea if he is going to be the coach, which I don't think he will. I just hope right now with the Saints, I just hope that they do a thorough search. There's talk of them kind of already knowing who they want and like having like you mentioned with the Dolphins earlier, like having a plan A, and if that don't work, then we're going to go with plan A.
Uh-huh.
I just I just really hope they do a thorough search. Looks like Mickey Loomis is going to be the GM moving forward, which that might not be a great thing for the Saints either. But and you mentioned the cap struggles, but we'll see what happens. Well,
Yeah,
let's get
when you need a new head coach, you want the team to actually like invest the time to make the right decision and not just here's what we
right,
got. This is what we're going with.
right. Yeah,
Which
no,
I've seen that happen with my own team.
yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at this point if you tell me in February or March they hire Rizzy as the coach. I wouldn't be surprised if you tell me they're going to hire Aaron Glenn. Wouldn't be surprised. A name I saw on an ESPN article today was Vance Joseph, who is the defensive coordinator for the Broncos, ironically.
Mm-hmm.
But he is a former head coach in the NFL, coached the Cardinals. But he also is a native of New Orleans. He went to,
Oh.
I want to say he went to Shaw High School, Archbishop Shaw High School. But yeah, well, look, we'll see. I don't know. I'm actually more interested to see if whoever they hire, what happens to Kubiak.
Right.
Because I mean, obviously came out of the box first two games, setting the world on fire, and then not so much since. But uh, we'll see what happens with him. I'm sure he'll get if the Saints do decide to part ways with him, that he'll probably have an offer somewhere. He can go coach somewhere.
Right.
Anyway, you want to take the next one?
I don't really want to, Paul. Randall Cunningham.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Presents Eagles 24, Ravens. This says 14. I think it was 19.
Oh, I may have had it wrong. I apologize.
Yeah. So that's this was, I think, and to be
Yeah,
fair,
it was 19.
the this game was not as close until the end. I think the Ravens scored a last minute touchdown. But part of the reason this was not as close as it should have been was Justin Tucker, who
Oh man!
speaking of our Texas A&M matchups, he was the one who ended the last UT A&M game with the walk-off field goal for UT. Has not quite returned to those glory days. He's been pretty brutal this year. Missed an extra point, missed 2 field goals. That's 7 points right there. Just I think this game looks a little bit different if they're able to get those points. But still,
Absolutely.
I mean, a few weeks ago we did a draft of MVP candidates, and Lamar looked like the easy, like on track to win the award, and he has completely fallen off since then. He's not being as efficient as a passer, taking more sacks, and things just don't look. And I feel like we've had a couple of these seasons from Lamar where he's kind of started out kind of hot and then tailed off at some point. And I mean, obviously he's won 2 MVP, so there's also been seasons where he's carried it through. But it looks like I think maybe some of the play that he had early in the season was unsustainable. Now, should also be said that he's gone against some tougher defenses. The Chargers, the Steelers, the Eagles all have, you know, above average defenses, so there's something to be said there. And then the Saquon run eventually was what it was. This was a close game, and then eventually it looked like the Ravens defense kind of wore down, and Saquon basically just there was a wide open hole, and he basically put the game away.
Yep. Yeah, the Ravens are off this week. I was looking at this. I thought they had a game this week, but yeah, the Ravens are kind of searching for a get right game now. Yeah, it's weird. Like we kind of thought. I remember way back when, in whatever week that was, week 5 or 6, when they just demolished Buffalo on a Sunday night. It was like, okay, here we go. This is the Baltimore team we expect. And yeah, they've kind of had these moments, right? They lose to Cleveland. They have this game. I was really kind of surprised. I kind of thought, not that they would run over Philadelphia by any means, but I don't know. I expected a little more out of Baltimore. And for Philadelphia now, we talked about the Lions earlier. It feels like the Philadelphia might have the inside track to the 1 seed in the NFC, especially looking at their schedule down the stretch, who they play versus who Detroit's playing. Detroit still has to play all 3 of their division games again. And oh, by the way, they have to play Buffalo, So, and Philadelphia, I think, plays like Washington, Dallas,
they have the easiest
Carolina.
I've said this before. They have the easiest schedule in the league from whenever they showed that remaining schedule. They had the easiest schedule left. So they're not going to be tested very much.
Yeah, and I mean, if they do get the 1 seed and you have to go to Philadelphia in the playoffs, it's not easy. Not saying it's impossible, but
now so Philadelphia has 4 out of their last 5 games are at home, and the best they do play Pittsburgh. That game will be in Philadelphia. That's probably that's their only real challenging game left. Now, what would be hilarious is if the Eagles go out there and lay an egg against the Panthers this week. Because
it would be hilarious.
Bryce Young, well, we can talk about them now. Keyshawn Johnson, Cowboys legend, but also Buccaneers and Panthers legend, presents Buccaneers 26, Panthers 23 in overtime. Bucks take care of business, but the Panthers cover. Bryce Young seems to have saved his career. He looks like a completely different player since he's come back. Like, this is not just he's had a few flashes here and there. He's actually looked good. He looks like an NFL quarterback.
Absolutely. I really thought they were going to pull this one out against and you know what? You kind of joked about this a minute ago with them playing Philadelphia this week. I think Carolina's going to get somebody down the stretch here. They're going to sneak up on somebody. And
well, they do have the Cowboys left on the schedule, Paul, so
oh, well.
I think we know who they're going to get.
sorry, buddy. But no, look, I'm happy for Bryce. I think they definitely have gotten to the point where they're out of the quarterback business in the 25 draft.
Yeah, you don't have to. You've got enough here to see what you have going forward. You don't want to. You don't need to waste that.
Yeah, you're kind of in the Patriots boat of, okay, let's get some weapons. Let's get some pieces to build around Bryce. And Canales looks like he's kind of getting comfortable and as a head coach, and I look, speaking as someone who has to play the Panthers twice a year, I hope they don't get it together that good, but they definitely have it. I would definitely say moving forward, the future's a little brighter for the Panthers than is the Saints at this point, just based on the roster, based on the fact that I would going into next year, I'd probably rather have Bryce Young than definitely than David Carr, but yeah, Derek Carr too.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, you won't get any argument from me on that.
All right, let's move on here to a Saints legend. Reggie Bush presents the Sunday night game. Bills 35, 49ers 10. Here's your MVP, Josh Allen. Shout out to him also. He got engaged last week, so congratulations to him.
It's not whoa. MVP's not Saquon Barkley?
I think it's Josh Allen. Look, we talked about this, right? They're not giving it to a running back. Like if they're gonna, they'll give him the offensive player of the year, Saquon. That is. But like if you're telling me the MVP has to be a quarterback, it's Josh Allen at this point.
Yes, absolutely.
Now what I'll say is this game that they have coming up against Detroit, not this week, but next week, I think. Mm-hmm. That could go a long way to determining this because that same day is the Philadelphia-Pittsburgh game. And I want to say they're playing at the same time. So, like, if Josh Allen goes out and lays an egg against Detroit while Saquon's running all over Pittsburgh, maybe that changes the story a little bit.
The live odds on MVP would be doing this as the games go along, right?
Yeah.
Up and down, up and down.
Because it's not like Pittsburgh's defense is a pushover, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this game, I was really impressed with Buffalo for them just taking care of business, honestly. Because I kind of thought the 49ers. Now look, the weather played a part. I would say
another warm weather team going into cold weather and not looking good.
Well, and then McCaffrey getting hurt. He's done for the year now. It looks like.
R.I.P. my fantasy team.
Yeah, that they are. Yeah, the 49ers. You have here in the notes, possibly the league's biggest disappointment.
Yeah,
I'd put them in the Bengals probably in those discussions.
And I will say this: it's the reason that I would say it's the. You also mentioned the Jets as well when we were, but the thing with the 49ers is they were in the Super Bowl last year. They had a lead in the Super Bowl. Their aspirations were sky high. For the Bengals or the Jets, those are more aspirational, like expectations. Like what can we be? The 49ers were there. Like they had it in front of them. This was supposed to be the year they kind of like put it together, and they've completely fallen apart.
Yeah, they've
wasted my money, Paul. Well, they've wasted my money.
Sorry, buddy. But yeah, that I don't know, and with the 49ers, I don't know if you saw this rumor going around the last couple of days about the Bears possibly calling them for Shanahan, trying to trade for Kyle Shanahan. But I mean, look, if you're Shanahan, if maybe this season's left a sour taste in your mouth and going into next year, I know the Purdy contract situation. This is his last year of his rookie deal, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Or they're getting to the point where they're gonna have to possibly pay him. I know Debo's been a disappointment this year.
Mm-hmm.
They just paid Ayuk and then he got injured.
Who's now out for the year?
Yeah. So I mean, and I know Trent Williams. Best wishes to him and his family. They had their young son passed away yesterday or day before, I want to say. So obviously all the best to him and his family. But yeah, for the 49ers, look, I think this is just a year of maybe you just kind of dismiss it as like, yeah, we just had an off year and you try to come back. But if you're the Bears, I mean, you make the phone call. Phone call's free, right? You just pick the phone up and say, hey, what would it take? And at this point, if you're the Bears, what would be more beneficial to you? A coach like Kyle Shanahan or a first round pick that you spend on an offensive line?
Yeah, I think they've got it.
You know what I mean? Like,
have you seen the state of their offensive line?
Fair enough. But you get my point.
Right.
You get my point. All right, so let's move on to the Monday night game. Probably the best game of the week, yeah. the Monday night game.
Yeah, it certainly had the
Most
most
entertaining.
wild swings. Yeah.
Peyton Hillis, former Madden cover artist, presents Broncos 41, Browns 32. So I had Browns plus 5.5, and I had it right up to the end, and then
Jameis
Jameis
Winston.
did a Jameis.
The Lord
Hurt
did
me.
not deliver you from Lord did not deliver you from Jameis Winston.
So hurt me twice. Hurt me in my picks and in my fantasy league. The person
Were you
I was
playing the
playing,
Broncos defense?
bingo, and I was like,
was
yeah, it was crazy.
this is the Jameis Winston experience distilled into one game because he threw for
Absolutely.
almost 500 yards and threw 2 pick sixes. He threw 6 touchdowns in this game.
Right.
4 to his own team. And so I watched this game up to a point, and so I saw the Bo Nix 93-yard touchdown pass, which was
The Mims
was a
one,
great pass. Cleveland gets the ball back, and immediately no one decides to cover Jerry Jeudy.
Yep.
He is wide open.
Yep.
And so one play later, it's back. And so I was like, I'm going to bed. I can't keep up with all this. So
I got
was like,
a cockfight. I got a cockfight to think about.
Exactly. I did see the first pick six as well. So
so I didn't realize
that was a bad one. That was one.
So, I didn't realize until today. I looked up the play-by-play. I didn't realize the proximity of the pick six, and then the next drive he throws the interception in the end zone that Barton gets that basically ends the game. I thought that those were more. There was more distance between those, but yeah, it's the full Jameis experience, man. But if you're a Cleveland fan, I'd take that over what they had before, which was
there's no way you can go back to he who must not be named after this, right? Like, why would you do that? Doing that is basically telling your team that we're not going to try. We're not doing everything that we can to win games.
Well, I mean, the thing is like Jameis is only on a 1-year deal, I believe. So, and I truly believe Jameis is a starting quarterback in the NFL. Like, somebody's going to give him an opportunity next year to at least compete. We'll see who that is. But yeah, I kind of agree with you on. You can't really go back to wild. I've said this about the Browns. I said it a couple weeks ago. They're kind of in the best case scenario here, where they're going to be in position to draft a quarterback. Like, let's say it's Cam Ward, for the sake of the argument.
Mm-hmm.
You could draft him, and you could keep Deshaun, but then you just tell him, look, it's an open competition. Like, we're gonna go into training camp and have a competition, and what
you cannot do is just walk in and say Deshaun is the starter from day one, right?
Right.
No,
yeah, exactly.
You lose credibility immediately.
Absolutely. All right. Anything else? Real quick on the Broncos. I mentioned Sean Payton in the Coach of the Year a couple weeks ago, and I don't want to say you were dismissive, but you were a little dismissive.
I think my part of that was initially that because originally the Broncos were winning this based on their defense, right? Their defense was what? Now that's changed since then because Bo Nix has played better. He's kind of makes plays where he needs to, doesn't turn the ball over, and that's basically what they need out of him. So there is that.
Yep. So, look, they're in the hunt. I think depending on who they play in the first round, that will definitely, they might be able to sneak out a a win there. But yeah, good for them. Good for Jameis, man. I'm happy that Jameis is. And like I said, I hope he gets another opportunity next year with somebody, uh, even if it's not with Cleveland. Okay,
Right.
real quick before we move on here, I just want to do a quick roundup, playoff roundup. So the following teams were eliminated from playoff contention this past week: the Patriots, the Raiders, the Giants, and the Jaguars. Uh, yep, Cowboys, you're still in it, buddy. You're
You're
still
telling me there's a chance.
well. I'll get to them here in a little bit. Um, and then as far as clinched spots, uh, the Buffalo Bills clinched the AFC East for the fifth year in a row. So shout out to them. And the Chiefs clinched a playoff spot. They have not clinched the division yet. They can do that this week. We'll talk more about that later. But they are in the playoffs for sure. So
All right, Paul. That wraps it up for this week. I don't know about you, but I feel a draft.
I feel the draft.
I feel a draft. Let's change tables.
Get out of here. We have a booth.
All right, so this week we talked about, and we're going to be drafting coaches likely to be fired or to move on from their current situation. So, what this means is we're not going to take the Saints, the Jets, and the Bears have already fired their head coaches.
Right.
So they're not eligible, but we're going to draft the teams that might make coaching changes in the offseason or, I mean, for the rest of the season as well. I mean, we can kind of, I think we can leave those positions open.
At this point, though, I don't know, like, because we're at week 14, right?
Never underestimate an NFL owner to make a very, very rash
that's true.
decision.
That's true. So yeah, but yeah, the idea here is that with the Saints, the Jets, and the Bears, like we know that they've already made their bed, so to speak.
They have moved on.
They've moved on. Yeah. So I'll give you the option this week. You want to go first, or do you want? And we're gonna do 4. You want to do 4 each?
Yeah, let's just do 4 here.
Okay.
I think I'm going to let you go first this time.
Okay.
I kind of want to look at things.
So this is going to be easy then. For the first overall pick, I'm going to go with someone we mentioned a moment ago, and that is Doug Peterson with the Jaguars. Just feels like that's been a long time coming. I think it would be hilarious at this point if they just kept him. But I mean, Belichick's a name that's been thrown around with the Jaguars a good bit. Ben Johnson obviously is going to be what we talked about a couple weeks ago when we drafted coaches we would like to see for our own teams. Also, I'll just throw this out there. Aaron Glenn played for the Jaguars, I believe. So
I believe so.
Just,
former Cowboy, former Saint,
former Jet. So yeah, just food for thought on that one. But yeah, I'll take Peterson with my with that first overall pick.
All right. You're going to do that, so I'm going to go over and take the man who's currently coaching what he referred to as the worst team in the NFL. I'm going to take Antonio Pierce of the Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah, I'm going to be interested to see what happens with the Raiders now that Brady has minority ownership. He's obviously going to be involved in whatever they end up doing. I've heard Vrabel's name. I've heard Belichick's name. I mean, Deion Sanders is in the mix because
why not?
Shador. Well, because of the Shador thing, right? Like, it looks like Shador wants to play for the Raiders. I know Shador and Brady have kind of a relationship from years past, or I read that somewhere. So it's going to be interesting to see. And look, the Raiders are in an uphill battle. I mean, the other 3 teams in their division, are in the playoffs right now, and they're just bringing up the rear. So I mean, they've got a uphill battle ahead of themselves. So see what they can do. What's your next pick?
All right. Next, I'm going to go to a team we talked about as potentially being on having a coach on the hot seat. They don't get things turned around. I am going to go. No. Yeah, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go with Mike McDaniel. Just because of the way that the offense is kind of shaped out, they've kind of struggled. They've got it's not a very cheap team. I think you kind of just look at what he's done. He hasn't really been able to, outside of the one kind of a one pitch. They've got a fastball. They don't have any sort of anything to work off of that. So I'm gonna go with the Dolphins head coach Mike McDaniel. All right, who are you taking with your second and third picks, Paul?
So I'm going to start with the team that I believe currently holds the first overall pick. That's the New York Football Giants and Brian Daboll. I just think that might be a situation where a fresh start is needed for both. I do think Daboll is a good coach. It's weird. Like that whole situation's weird. I mean, they had that one season in 2022 where they make the playoffs. They win the playoff game against Minnesota. And
then they give Daniel Jones
a
contract.
And in hindsight, they should have just moved on at that point and given Saquon his money. And if was the fifth, we'd all be drunk, right? So
right.
But yeah, I think Daboll. If Daboll is moved on from, he's going to have an offer, at least for an OC job. I mean, but probably a head coaching job somewhere. And then I'm going to go with. We talked about this guy. Well, we just talked about the team. We talked about him a couple weeks ago. I'm going to go Stefanski, Kevin Stefanski with the Cleveland Browns. This is more of what I just described with Daboll. I think Stefanski could use a break from them. And we've talked about it in the past, like if the ownership is not giving him, like, you have to play Deshaun Watson. If I'm Stefanski, man, I'm just going to be like, okay, fine. I'm gonna go somewhere else. Like, peace.
Yeah, I'm out of here.
And again,
I'll get my ball and go home.
He's a 2-time coach of the year. Like, he's gonna have offers on the table. So I mean, he'll get snatched up pretty quick if either they decide to move on from him or he decides. One of those mutual parting of ways, as I think they call it. So, who's your last two picks there, Brandon?
All right, I'm going to start with the very obvious one from my side. I'm going to take McCarthy. Just I know there's been some rumblings about him staying lately.
Hey, Dak Prescott says he deserves a.
Well, they didn't really do him any. It's the end of his contract, and they didn't really do him any favors in terms of like building up the roster to like they're kind of doing this like soft reset thing where they're like, okay, let's just play this year out without dumping a bunch of money into the team, and then maybe next year we can come back and invest some more resources. Once we got Dak, CD, we'll get Parsons signed in the offseason, and then maybe we can kind of do like a rebuild here, like without completely resetting everything. Which doesn't really do McCarthy any favors, right? Like, he's basically forced to work with sort of limited resources from what he's been given there. But I think it may make sense from his end to just say, okay, I've done what I could, and I think he'll probably end up getting another head coaching job too. The Cowboys won 12 games the last 3 seasons. Things haven't gone well this year, but you also had a lot of injuries. So, but I think it may make sense for both parties to just kind of move on. And then the other one, I'm gonna throw a little bit of a curveball here and go with a guy who is a first-year head coach. I'm gonna take Mr. Mayo up in New England.
You're gonna hold the Mayo, as it were.
I am gonna hold the Mayo. You know
Yeah,
what
he
would be
was gonna.
funny? You know what would be great? Is if we got Mayo to coach Will Levis.
That would be
That's what
that would be good. Yeah, that would be.
that's what we really need.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right.
That okay. Yeah, if you say so. Yeah, he was gonna be. Yeah, I was gonna. He was on my list. If you weren't gonna take him,
All right.
I'm
Who you got last?
I'm gonna go with a little bit of a curveball myself. Um, I'm gonna go Zach Taylor
That was going to be my
in
guess. If
Cincinnati.
that was going
Yeah.
to be my guess there.
Um, I feel like Bengals fans, and this may be more national media too, they kind of are under the impression like if they had a coach like a Mike Vrabel or a Bill Belichick or somebody like that, that this team would be in a better situation than they are right now.
Yeah, I mean, and it feels like he runs the offense, and the offense isn't the problem,
Right.
but he's gonna end up taking the fall for what's happened on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, my guess, and look, this is the reason I'm picking him last is because I don't see it actually happening. But my guess is going to be that he's going to be told, look, you need to find if they move on from Lou, the defensive coordinator, Aaron, I can't remember his last name, but if they move on from their defensive coordinator, they're going to like Zach Taylor's going to be given the ultimatum of find a guy who can fix his defense, or you're next kind of thing.
Walk.
Which
Mm-hmm.
which by the way, I wouldn't be surprised if that's Dennis Allen is the next defensive coordinator of the Cincinnati. I'm being very serious when I say that, but we'll see. So yeah, so that's my pick there. Do we want to? You want to recap your picks real quick?
Yeah, so I took Antonio Pierce, Mike McDaniel, Mike McCarthy, and Gerard Mayo.
And I took Doug Peterson, Brian Daboll, Kevin Stefanski, and Zach Taylor. All right, so moving on. I almost actually go on McCarthy real quick. I almost made him ineligible because I was like, well, technically his contract's up. Like, you're not really.
We did say moving on.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's part
fair.
of it.
That's fair. All right. Speaking of moving on, let's move on to week 14. So we're getting down to the end here. We only got 5 weeks left of the regular season here.
Yep.
This is the last week that teams will be on a bye. We have 6 teams on a bye here.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll start with the Baltimore Ravens. Their bye is brought to you by Hall of Famer Ray Lewis. We have the Denver Broncos, whose bye is brought to you by Memphis legend Paxton Lynch,
who I thought was going to be an actually good quarterback.
I wasn't going to bring it up, but I'm glad you did. The Houston Texans, their bye is brought to you by Iowa Hawkeye tight end, former Iowa Hawkeye tight end, CJ Fedorowicz, the one Iowa Hawkeye tight end who actually didn't make it in the NFL, unfortunately.
He had a season and a half of semi-productiveness.
Yeah, a little bit. The Indianapolis Colts, their bye week brought to you by the new general manager of the Stanford Cardinal football program, Andrew Luck. New England Patriots bye brought to you by LSU legend and an alum of the same high school as yours truly, Kevin Falk.
Ah.
And finally, my favorite one for this week, the Washington Commanders bye brought to you by, one second here, Henry Thomas Hughes, or as he was known to his friends, Honolulu Hughes.
Because he was from Honolulu?
He was born in Honolulu, Hawaii, May 4th, 1907. He played 1 year in the league for the then Boston Braves. So shout out to him.
That is a throwback right there.
Look, when I was looking up names, his stuck out, so I was like, we're gonna give this guy some love, for sure. So
is he one of those guys where if you try to search his real name, it doesn't come up? You have to search for Honolulu.
Right, on Football Reference, yeah, on Pro Football Reference, yeah, because that's what caught my eye. All right, so let's move on to the games. So this game actually just went final because we're recording this on Thursday night.
Hold on, let me
But,
predict the score. Let me predict the score, Paul.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, give it your.
Lions 34, Packers 20. Wait, no, I'm getting a sign. Packers 31.
That how'd you know?
So,
Robert Brooks presents Packers Lions. We both took the Packers plus 3.5. We'll review this game more next week, but spoiler alert: the Packers covered.
they did cover. They did not win.
They did not win. Fortunately for me, because I had a parlay with their money line, but so sad for me. But
that's a shame.
And also, I was going to bring this up later, but this clinches a playoff spot for the Lions. They do not clinch the division yet, but they do clinch a playoff spot.
That division is still up in the air.
They are now.
Minnesota's got a chance.
Minnesota has a chance. The Packers, I don't think this doesn't eliminate the Packers officially, but they're pretty much behind the 8-ball for the division because
they'd have to win outright.
And now the Lions have beaten them twice. So
so they'd have to go. They'd have to go 4-0. Detroit would have to drop to 12-5 for them to get to. For them
they'd have to win out. They'd have to win out. Detroit would have to lose out. Yeah. All right. So we'll talk more about that game next week. It ended up being a very entertaining game.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on to a game I don't think will be as entertaining. Dante Pettis, current Saint Dante Pettis, presents Saints at Giants. Giants are getting 4.5. I'm going to take the 4.5 with the Giants.
I'm going to lay the 4.5 with the Saints.
Good luck with that.
This is more a commentary on who I think the Giants are than who I think the Saints are.
This is a classic game that the Saints could lose. Like everything on paper says that they should win. It is a homecoming game for Darren Rizzi. He's from that area, so hopefully he can get a win, his third win in 4 games as Saints head coach. But I'm not. I mean, this is probably it's going to be in Meadowlands or MetLife, whatever it's called. It's probably, I don't know what the weather's going to be like. I know it's going to be cold, but I did sprinkle a little money on both running backs going over 100 yards in this game, Kamara and Tyrone Tracy, because both of these teams. Tyrone Tracy, because both of these teams are terrible against the run.
I could use that for fantasy purposes for Tracy.
So, all right, moving on here. Another revenge game or a revenge game. No one else could present this except Kirk Cousins. Falcons at Vikings. Vikings are laying 4.5. I'm going to take the 4.5 with the Falcons. That's more of a jinx.
I was going to say you're jinxing. This is a jinx pick, isn't it?
Yeah, this is basically a jinx.
Not a gene pick, a jinx pick.
It's a jinx pick. For a while there, it looked like Kirk Cousins may not be in this game. There was rumblings about Michael Penix maybe, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Time for big Penix.
Although if Kirk plays a game like he did against the Chargers, the other thing about that Chargers game we didn't talk about earlier, Falcons were coming off a bye, and Cousins does that, like coming off a bye, so
maybe he was maybe it was cold, maybe he needed, or maybe like he was rusty because he hadn't.
It was in a dome.
No, I mean he needed to warm up a little more. not cold in the temperature sense. Cold in the.
Fair enough.
My muscles have not been worked out.
It's going to be cold in Minnesota, but they play in a dome too. So, I mean, look, the Vikings obviously need this game because they got to keep pace with the Lions. Lions just won, so.
Yep.
I expect Brian Flores to be blitzing off the bus, as the old saying goes. Speaking of someone who used to blitz a lot, Brian Cox, and also named Brian Cox, former linebacker, presents Jets at Dolphins. Dolphins are laying 6.5. You've learned your lesson. You're not betting the Jets. Neither am I.
Yeah, I don't love the Dolphins, but they're at home, and the Jets just find ways to give things away. So we'll take Tua and Mr. McDonald.
The only thing that's really keeping the Dolphins in this playoff run is the fact that they play the Jets twice in the next 5 weeks.
There you
And
go. That's the way to do it.
they also have a game against the Texans, and then a game against Cleveland. So that's 4 of their next 5 games. 2 Jets, Texans, and Browns. And then the 49ers, which that's not as daunting a task either as it would have seemed. So
That's a Mike McDaniel revenge game too.
it is, yeah. So the Browns is too, actually, because he was on the Browns staff back when Johnny Manziel was quarterback in the Browns.
Oh.
But yeah, so I mean, not out of the question the Dolphins could finish 10-7. Like they could roll off these 5 games in a row here, but we'll see. We'll see. I mean, again, with all these Dolphins games, my biggest thing is I just hope Tua is healthy. Like,
yeah,
after what he's been through this season.
Mm-hmm.
I'll let you take this next one.
All right. XFL legend Rod, He Hate Me Smart presents Panthers versus Eagles. Eagles at home laying 12.5. You want to give a special shout out here.
Yeah. So another immaculate grid match for these two teams is Jason Avant. I don't know if you remember, he's a wide receiver. But the reason I wanted to give him a shout out was if we talked about the Michigan-Ohio State fiasco. If you watched that, you saw at one point there was someone in plain clothes trying to retrieve the Michigan flag from the Ohio State players that were like ripping at it. That person was Jason Avant. Jason Avant is a University of Michigan alum. So when I found that out, I was like, well, I'll give him a shout out here on the show. So
the thing I remember most about Jason Avant's time with the Eagles was that he came along and wore number 81 right after T.O.
Oh, yeah.
had worn 81 for the Eagles. And so I was like, wait, is that T.O.? Of course, I didn't actually think that because T.O. was with the Cowboys at that point. So,
right.
Yeah, so he took over the number 81 from when Terrell Owens left Philadelphia.
All right. So but I'm gonna take the 12.5 with the Panthers. And listen,
I'd love for you to be right there.
Well, I know you. I consider this being my upset pick of the week, and I know you would absolutely love that. But I think that Eagles defense is just too much for Bryce.
That's what I worry about. I think it's a little bit too tall of a task, and I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball as successfully as they need to sort of keep the offense on track.
Now, I will say, if Hurts does what Hurts can do from time to time, which is keep the other team in the game, then this could be interesting. But yeah, I'll take the 12.5. Hopefully, Panthers can at least keep it close.
I think the Panthers are also not a good run defense, and that does not bode well for against Philly.
Mr. Saquon. Yeah.
All right, Joe Hayden presents Browns versus Steelers. Steelers at home laying 6.5. I'm taking the 6.5. I've been more on the Steelers than you have, but we're both taking. I think this is a little bit of a we're playing into the Jameis variance, right?
Well, remember this is a rematch from 2 weeks ago, that Thursday night game, which was in the snow. Which, I don't know what the weather forecast is going to be for Pittsburgh this weekend, but George Pickens, I remember, I think he made reference after the game to like the snow played a factor and all that stuff. So. Look, if you're the Steelers, this is a game that you just take care of business, you get the win, and you move on. And again, for them to keep pace, I guess the Ravens aren't playing this weekend. So if you win, that gets you another game above the Ravens. I think that's their game. Their next game after this is Baltimore, I want to say, or maybe it's the week after that. I know they have another. No, they play the Eagles next, and then Baltimore. Then they do they're doing the same thing the Texans are doing, the 3 games in 10 days. So
you'll get as a Cowboys fan who's been forced to watch the Cowboys play 3 games in 10 days, years and years in a row. The teams give no sympathy from me on that one.
Yeah, that's a shame.
That's a shame.
All right, let's move on to Gerald McCoy, current NFL TV analyst. He presents Raiders at Bucks. This is a Super Bowl rematch from years gone by. Buccaneers are laying 7.5, and the Buccaneers are. We kind of mentioned this a little earlier. They're kind of coming on strong now. Now that the Falcons are taking a step back, looks like the Bucks are in a good position. And if they didn't have all those injuries on offense, I know Mike Evans is back and playing pretty well, and Baker looks like he's just going to keep them in it. So this is a good opportunity for them to pick up another win here at home against the woeful Raiders.
Yeah, and if they hadn't just like blown games against the Falcons, they would be in the driver's seat for this division right now.
Exactly, and that's the thing is because of that they have to finish with more wins than the Falcons because they're going to lose the tiebreaker because they've lost both games to the Falcons. 7.5 is the number we're laying that. We're both laying that with the Bucks here.
That is correct.
And then the final early game. Would you raise the blinds for this one?
No, this is a would not raise the blinds game right here. Especially now. Now I might raise the blinds and take a peek if Trevor Lawrence was playing with Mac Jones there. I'm going to keep the blinds down. Might even close the curtains a little bit to make sure I don't accidentally catch a glimpse of this.
So with that said, our apologies to Dante Moncrief, but he's presenting Jaguars at Titans. Titans are laying 3.5. I'll take the 3.5 with the Jaguars because why not? Why the hell not?
I was actually going to take the Jaguars until I remembered that Mac Jones is starting this game. And I was like,
I will point out, just for the record, if the Titans were to win their last 5 games and finish 8-9, they would have swept the Texans. If the Texans lose those 3 games they got coming up, the Tennessee Titans would be your AFC South division winners, assuming that the Colts don't get to 9 wins. But anyway, so yeah, okay, I'm done with trying to make the Titans a thing here. Are you're laying the points? Yeah, you're laying.
I'm laying the points
for the Titans.
You're done making the Titans a thing. I will still take those points.
Hey, good luck. Moving on here. Let's go to probably the game of the week, I would say, presented by Case Keenum, former University of Houston Cougar. He's presenting Bills at Rams. Rams are getting 4.5. I'm laying the points, and looks like you are as well.
That is correct.
I
had trouble with this. This is kind of a tricky spot for Buffalo, right? It's a non-conference opponent. You're on the road across the country. Just came off another big win in the cold.
And the thing about the Rams, we'll talk about another game here in a minute. The Seahawks and Cardinals are playing each other. So if you're the Rams and you can get a win, that'll keep you in the hunt, Mm-hmm. So I expect the Rams to come out with a little fire under their belly or under their backside, as it were. Because if they win, so if the Rams win and the Cardinals beat the Seahawks, we'll have a 3-way tie for first place in the NFC West. But yeah, look, for the Bills, just stay healthy, right? Just don't.
Yeah, just don't get hurt. Take care of business.
Because they've got this game and then they got the Lions next week. So,
feels like a trap game, right?
Let's
does. Just hope they don't fall victim to the trap.
This could be an overreaction thing where, like, if the Bills lose, like everybody's like, oh, see, they're not for real, So, let's move on. You can take this next one.
All right, Curtis Conway presents Bears 49ers. 49ers, as bad as they have been, are still laying the points here. 4.5 at home. I'm surprised you didn't go Robbie Gould here for the.
Yeah, I should have. Curtis Conway is just I don't know. I remembered his name. But doing Immaculate Grid one day, and just for some reason I just kept riding with him. So
Curtis Conway Twitty is what we'll call
Curtis Conway Twitty, yes, of course.
I will say that Robbie Gould for the Chicago Bears 49ers is the one kicker that you can use that will get you like 40%.
Yeah,
on Immaculate Grid. He'll blow your score up. We're both on the Bears here. I guess we believe in what the Bears have done on offense and the fact that the 49ers appear to be dead.
Well, and also it's the fired coach bump, right?
Yep.
You fire your coach. Yeah. By the way,
money on the money line there. Then,
by the way, just throwing this out there. Bears are currently 4-9, right?
4-9, 49ers.
Wait, are they 4-9? No, they're 4-8. The Bears are 4-8.
So if they lose, they'd be the 49ers.
Yeah, exactly. If they win out, if the Bears win out, they're 9-8, and we might get 4 teams from the NFC North in the playoffs. So just throwing it out there.
Man, you love those edge cases on the playoffs.
Yeah. See, that's the thing. I'm the guy. I want to be the guy who like in the first week of December said, "Hey, the Bears got a chance to make the playoffs," and then come January, I'm proven right. I was looking up to see where Curtis Conway was from. USC. Okay, that's what I thought. He's a Trojan. All right, yeah, we're both taking the 4.5 here, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Last game of the late slate, Mr. Dwight Freeney presents Seahawks Cardinals. Cardinals at home laying 2.5. Given what we've said about the Cardinals, I don't know that I would lay any points with them. Especially, I feel a lot better about Seattle and where they are at this point in the season.
Yeah, and this is an opportunity for Seattle to kind of take a stronghold on this division, right? Because if they win this game, they'll be 8-5 with 4 games left. They'll be up 2 on Arizona and possibly 2 on the Rams if the Rams lose to Buffalo. So, and look, we just saw this game, right, 2 weeks ago in Seattle. And you made the point about Seattle's defense improving as the season goes. So,
gotten everybody healthy now.
Gotten everybody healthy. I think maybe this is good opportunity for them. So I'm gonna take the 2.5 with them. They've won 3 in a row. Also, Seattle. Just to throw that out there. Excuse me. All right. Moving on to Sunday night. Another Saints legend, Chase Daniel, presents Chargers at Chiefs. Chiefs are laying 3.5. We are both going to take the 3.5. Real quick on Chase Daniel. I think we've had the Forrest Gump of the NFL conversation before. Chase Daniel might be in the running because like he ended up being the backup quarterback for Drew Brees, Mahomes.
Yeah.
Who was he? Phillip Rivers backup with the Chargers? Maybe.
I don't remember him. I always associate him with the Chiefs and the Saints. Those are the two teams that I really think about him with.
If you remember, he was signed by the Eagles to be their starter, and then he lost the job to Wentz.
I
want to say
rookie season.
Yeah, I want to say it was. No, I'm sorry. He was signed by Kansas City, and he lost the job to. Well, no, this was before Mahomes.
It couldn't have been Mahomes. Yeah.
Yeah, he must have lost it to. Who was the
Alex Smith?
Hang on. Yeah, must have been Alex Smith. I thought there was a rookie that he lost the job. I remember him being signed by a team.
It would have had to be the Eagles because 2016 was Carson Wentz's first year because that was also Dak's rookie season.
That's what it was. It was the Eagles signed him and everybody thought he was going to be the starter and they drafted Wentz and then that's what it was. And then he ended up. So with the Chargers, he backed up Herbert.
Mm.
That was at the end of his career, because he just retired in 2022. He also was with the Bears. That must have been was that the Cutler? Or was that the Foles? Might have been the
That looks a
Foles.
little late for Cutler.
Trubisky. That was Trubisky.
Ooh.
Error. Yeah. Yikes. Yama.
Yeah, Hama.
So we are both taking the points with the Chargers here.
Yeah, the Chiefs haven't really given you any reason to think that they can
Well,
cover.
and this is a good chance for the Chargers to make a point, to make a statement here, right? Like, I think one of the things against the Chargers has been they haven't really beaten anybody.
What are you talking about? They beat division leader Atlanta in Atlanta last week, Paul.
I stand corrected. Yeah, I like this idea. But no, look, if they can, and they played the Chiefs close the first time. Wait, is this game in Kansas City or is it in? Hang on.
It looks like it is in Kansas City.
Okay, what I thought for some reason I thought my rods and cones are all screwed up. I thought it was.
Yeah, it is in Kansas City.
Okay, so the game they played earlier was in L.A. All right. Anyway, moving on. I'll let you have your fun here on the Monday night game.
All right. One of my, I would say probably maybe my second favorite Cowboy of all time. One of my favorites, top 5 at least. Terrence Newman presents Bengals, Cowboys. Cowboys at home getting 5.5. You and I are both laying the points with the Bengals, based on the fact that, you know, the Bengals defense is bad, but they'd have to be really bad to let Cooper Rush put up enough points for them to lose this game. If they lose this game, I think that might be enough to cost Zach Taylor his job, or at least the defensive coordinator. Maybe the defensive coordinator.
Yeah, Lou Amaretto. Amaretto was his name? I don't know.
Amaretto.
But Amaretto Sour. Yeah, something like that.
Something like that.
Is there any chance that this game is as entertaining as the Browns Broncos game?
There's always a chance, Paul.
It's always a chance. By the way, this is a Simpsons crossover. The reason this game could not be flexed out of Monday night was because of the Simpsons alternative.
They're doing an alternative broadcast, right?
Yeah, so they made like Dan Orlovsky and Mina Kimes and someone else is like
oh great, Simpsons. Dan Orlovsky. That's what I really need in my life. Mr. Run out of the back of the end zone.
The first coming of CJ Stroud.
So have I ever told you about how I met Terrence Newman?
You may have, but tell me again.
So when I was living in Austin, so the Cowboys used to have their training camp in San Antonio, and so a lot of times guys who like lived in Dallas would drive, you know, down 35 from Dallas to San Antonio, and I was there taking some college courses at UT, and I followed Terrence Newman on Twitter, and he tweeted something about Papado. And so there's one Papado on the way on 35 heading from Dallas to San Antonio. And so, because I think it had the location as Austin. And so, you know, my wife, who was my girlfriend then, was like, well, come on, let's go. So we go to Papa. We stalked him at Papado.
So you stalked Terrence Newman at Papa. Okay,
I stalked yeah. So
it's a good story. Keep going.
Yeah, so we went to the bar, and like we saw where he was sitting at the table. So we just like went up to the bar, ordered a drink. Like we're just like, I was like, oh man, he's over there. So it was I think he was having dinner with Jesse Holley, who is the wide receiver who got a chance to play from the TV show, the reality TV show where Michael Irvin kind of.
Okay.
Yeah, so he won that show and was
that Last Chance You?
Yeah, it wasn't Last Chance You, but it was more like a pros versus Joes kind of thing or something.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
And so no, it was like Mr. Fourth and Long. I think that was it. It was something like that. But anyway, they were sitting in a booth, and so, like we saw him like get up to leave until I was like finally just like, okay, I'm gonna do this. So I walked over to him. They're exiting out, and so I was like, Mr. Newman. He like kind of stops, and he's like, you tell he was like, oh man, what's going on? He turned around. It's like, yeah, what's up? I was like, so I was like, I just wanted to tell you like you're my favorite player, and he was like, oh, I really appreciate that. So I think he's like, oh, this guy's going to ask me for autographs or whatever,
Right.
and so I just told him I was like, hey, you're my favorite player, and so he like, like shook my hand, gave me a hug, and it's like I really appreciate that. And so it was a pretty nice experience. Got to meet one of my favorite players.
So you didn't say hello, Newman?
I did not say hello, Newman.
No, that's a shame.
I do have his autograph as well. I did get a jersey autograph one time at the Galleria, which is another story. So for my birthday one year, I ordered myself an authentic jersey, Terrence Newman jersey. Got it in the mail like the day before my birthday. The next day, I have no classes, and my dad texts me. He's like, "Hey, Newman is signing at the gallery in Dallas." So I like grabbed my jersey, drove 3.5 hours from Dallas or from Austin to Dallas, and got in line. Had him sign that. Had him sign a mini helmet, and so I've got his autographed jersey hanging up in my house as well.
Well, that's quite some stories. So you stalked Terrence Newman at a
Papado in Austin.
Papado?
That's right.
I have a Papado story. It's not as good though.
You didn't? Did you stalk? Did you stalk?
No, I didn't stalk anybody. Me and some friends ate at the one in Beaumont.
Mm-hmm.
And I had crawfish. It was like I had 5 pounds of crawfish and got sick.
No, that's a lot. That's a much less happy ending than my story.
I didn't even get to meet Terrence Newman.
I will say he there's a Zimmer connection here because he followed Zimmer from Dallas to Cincinnati and then from Cincinnati to Minnesota. Like he played with Zimmer a good chunk of his career. So
I had to look this up. I had to look this up to confirm. He is a Kansas State alum.
He is.
And was he on the same teams as
Darren Sproles?
Or was
he was right picked before? In 2005, which sounds like it's about the right era.
That could be about right, maybe.
Yeah.
Was he on the Michael Bishop Kansas State teams? Remember Michael Bishop, the quarterback?
Yeah. Okay, so Darren Sproles was drafted in 2005. Terrence Newman was drafted in 2003. So there's probably a little bit of crossover.
Yeah. There were ships in the night, as it were. Okay. So I think does that do it for our week 14 preview?
It does.
Okay, so real quick, so we went over who clinched in week 13. Let's talk about who can clinch in week 14. In the AFC, there's only one possible clinching scenario this week, and that's the Chiefs. If the Chiefs beat the Chargers Sunday night, they will clinch the AFC West for the 9th straight year. So
that's impressive, given that. I mean, that's not even all Mahomes. That's also some Alex Smith thrown in there.
Yes. So for 9 straight years, it'll be the Chiefs have won the AFC West, and the Jets have had a losing season. So there you go. 2 ends of the spectrum there. Also in the AFC, the following teams can be eliminated from playoff contention with a loss: the Jets, the Browns, and unfortunately for me, the Tennessee Titans. In the NFC, Detroit can clinch a playoff spot with a win. Spoiler alert.
They've
clinched. The other 2 teams that can clinch this week are the Vikings and the Eagles. They have to win and get some help. So I would encourage you to go to NFLPlayoffScenarios.com if you want to see the full rundown. But basically, for the Vikings, they need to win and have a loss by the Cardinals and the Rams. That would get the Vikings in. If the Vikings beat the Falcons and the Cardinals and Rams lose and the Eagles beat the Panthers, then the Eagles would be in the playoffs. So all that to say, the Vikings and Eagles can clinch playoff spots if they win and they get a little help. The only NFC team that can be eliminated from the playoff hunt this week are the Panthers. If the Panthers lose to the Eagles and the Falcons beat the Vikings, then the Panthers are eliminated from playoff contention. I will say, too, if the Eagles beat the Panthers, that eliminates the Cowboys from the NFC East hunt. But it does not eliminate from the playoffs.
We're going to need some help.
You need a lot of help. But that notwithstanding. So there's your playoff clinching scenario. So again, Detroit actually becomes the first NFC team to clinch as we're recording here. So good for them. All right, let's move on here. We're going to get to our George is getting upset.
This is not good. Worlds are colliding. George is getting upset.
Who you got, Brandon?
All right. I kind of debated two different picks here, but I think I'm gonna go with the second one. I'm gonna take the Seahawks on the road against Arizona.
Okay. I mean that is an upset by spread, but yeah, that spread still feels off to me. But hey,
there's a reason Vegas has all those hotels out there.
That's the letter of the law. It is an upset. I'm gonna go with the Bears. Pick the Bears to upset the 49ers in San Francisco.
I was actually so that wasn't my other pick. So my other consideration was Chargers over.
Yeah, I thought about that one too. So you're going Seahawks over Cardinals. I'll go Bears over 49ers. Let's move along to Jerry. It's a lock.
Oh, Jerry, it's a lock. Kramer, you've had this thing under control for almost 3 years now.
All right, Paul, I'll let you go first. You
want to let me go first? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I've tried this a couple times and it hasn't worked, so I'm going to try it one more time. I'll lock in the Eagles for your sake.
Well, that takes them off the board for me because I was thinking of taking them as well.
So I was going to say, well, yeah. When I remember where our parlay here is usually my upset and your lock.
That's correct. So right now, I'm going to go in the game that is rated R. The Buccaneers over the Raiders in a rematch of the 2002 Super Bowl.
There you go.
You
remember who the MVP of that Super Bowl was?
Was it Derek Brooks?
No. It was a defensive player.
It wasn't Simeon Rice.
Nope.
It was a linebacker, wasn't it?
No, it was a secondary cornerback.
Rondé Barber.
Dexter Jackson.
Okay. I'm trying to think of. I'm naming every Tampa Bay defensive player. Why don't you just tell me who the MVP was?
No, it was Dexter Jackson, and he was never heard from again.
No, that was like the who was the Seahawks linebacker who won MVP in that Super Bowl? Wasn't he also
KJ Wright? No, was it? No, it wasn't KJ Wright.
But wasn't he also like? Not
are you talking about
from?
Are you talking about the Super Bowl they beat the? Well, no,
the Broncos. The Broncos.
Oh, the one that that wasn't Bobby Wagner. No,
it wasn't Bobby Wagner. It was one of the less known.
Let's see here. Super Bowl
MVP. Malcolm Smith.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I do. You're right. He was never heard from again.
Neither one of us could come up with the name.
Let's see. Malcolm Smith.
He played in the league for 10 years, though.
He's a former Cowboy.
Well, that's news to me. He obviously made a really big impression.
Well, so in 2019, he split time between the Jaguars and the Cowboys.
And yeah, the Jags and Cowboys. He played 2 games in Dallas.
Started one.
Had 4 solo tackles.
There you go.
And 1 assist.
There you go. Yeah. So shout out to Dexter Jackson and Malcolm Smith. So to recap here, so for the lock, I'm going to go with the Eagles. You're going with the Buccaneers. All right, so for the Bless Them Boys parlay, that means we're taking Bears money line and Bucks money line, right?
Correct.
Okay, and we'll see what that actually. Why not?
See what kind of sweet action. You know, while you look that up, I can tell you my Buccaneer joke.
Go ahead.
So,
can't wait.
Halloween, this woman opened her door. Little boy dressed in a pirate costume said, "Trick or treat." The woman looked at him and said, "Oh, you're such a cute little pirate, but where are your Buccaneers?" He looked back at her and said, "They're under my bucking hat."
Another bullseye.
Another bullseye.
Okay, so on Fliff, yeah.
Fliff?
If you do a parlay, Bucks money line, Bears money line, you can get it at plus 242.
Oh.
It's not terrible.
Not too bad.
Let's check rebet real quick.
You know what I've found is that I think Fliff, I've gotten better value on the money lines.
Yeah.
On NFL games there.
And Bears, right? Bucks and Bears.
Correct.
Plus 231 on rebet. So a little better on Fliff. So happy gambling, everybody.
Yeah. welcome to the Blessed and Boys podcast, a podcast that has descended into degeneracy.
Well,
that'll be our intro for next week.
Have you seen how our teams have played this year? We
might as well do something fun.
We had no choice. Like, what else are we gonna do? All right. You got anything else to tell the fine folks before we sign off for the week here?
I think that's it for now.
All right. So when we rejoin you here, we'll have a couple more games to talk about. We already got one game in the book for week 14. So congratulations to the Lions on clinching a playoff spot.
That's correct. And congrats to us for starting the week 1-0 in the picks.
There you go. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, I will say also one of my kids picked the Lions. Okay. And the other one picked the blue team. So they're 2-0 to start the week.
So they're both right.
They're both correct.
All right. Well, until next week, happy football, everyone.
Happy football.